Hey guys, how are we doing today? Welcome back to another episode of Chainsaw Man Review. Today we're going over chapter 170, How to Eat Sushi, which, in my opinion, for the slow burn that Chainsaw Man really has been over the course of part two, this is one of those chapters that finally, leaves off on a snap. It definitely leaves off on a stinger, which we're going to get into right now. So we've been getting 14, 16 page chapters for the last couple months now. So the pace has been a little slow. We're still following Denji, Asa, and the group with Fami, who are trying to cheer Denji up so Denji can fight Asa. And we already know what happened in the previous chapters. I'm not even going to go over it. But Denji is still trying to figure out what's going on in his head after just getting, jerked off, for lack of a better term. And basically, Denji's trying to understand if he's happy, if he's unhappy, if he got assaulted, if he enjoyed what happened, if there was actually some consent there. He really has no idea what to know. And basically looking around all of these different people, last chapter we see he's kind of like, have all of these people had this done to them before? Which it's really sad to see how low Denji is just sinking, that just thinking being abused and having these awful experiences that are supposed to be meant to be great. His first kiss was ruined with puke. Now his first hand job was ruined with, just unwillingness, if we'll say that. It's actually just disgusting. And the suffering for Denji never gets worse. Everyone always mentions how Yuji is a protagonist that suffers more than anything. I think part two Denji has just had so many things go wrong for him. Part one Denji definitely lost all of his friends and had a rough time with their matriarch figure. But now part two Denji is just still reeling from the after effects of that. And now he's missing Nayuta, the one thing that made him feel normal and have a family. Of course, last chapter ended off with Mr. Barem, the second in command of the Chainsaw Church, or I think he's Whip Man. I think he's the Whip hybrid. He is an asshole. He's sucked this entire time. He's done nothing but bad things, and anytime he's on screen, it's nothing good is ever going to come from it. He's such a weaselly little person that took Nayuta, which Denji does not forget. Denji's very angry about that. But Mr. Barem says he can introduce us to Nayuta after so long, which, thank God, we need to see Nayuta. How is she? Where is she going? We know Asa and Yoru had that moment where they got their memories back for a split moment, which last time that meant Makima died. So I think we're okay, though, right? We're definitely okay. Mr. Barem's like, hey, keep eating the sushi, and I will show you Nayuta. There's a group of public safety people that are outside looking to kill us, and I need you to defend us from them, and also keep eating the sushi. Just focus on eating the sushi. We're talking about other things. Keep eating the sushi. And as Denji keeps going down and down the line, he's getting more and more frustrated. He's getting more annoyed. And eventually, you just see Denji doing what he knows to do best, which is following orders blindly, just doing whatever anybody tells him, which Denji has started off strong in part two and reverted so far down. And it just gets worse because finally the main course shows up and it's Nayuta's head that is the main course. Nayuta's head. I guess she's dead. They must have did the same thing that they did to Denji to her, only she didn't have anyone to save them. Which I'm kind of conflicted on, to be completely honest with you. One, of course, we know that this doesn't necessarily mean that Nayuta is dead. There's always ways for a devil to come back in Chainsaw Man. Two, Nayuta was turning out to be an evil little fuck anyway. So it's possible that it may have been the best move overall to take her out. Because let's not forget that she was looking to plot against the humans when worst comes to worst. And three, I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just sad to see because we know Denji cares about her, which, yeah, it's not looking good. I don't even know how Denji's going to react to all of this. I don't even know what the group is going to do with the public safety people that have completely surrounded them around the sushi shop. The main appeal that we do learn out of all of this is that Mr. Barem and the Chainsaw Church are doing what they're doing because they want to get Pochita out. same as what Makima wanted, right? She wanted Pochita, not Denji. She wants the actual Chainsaw Man. Because according to Mr. Barem, Denji's transformation into Chainsaw Man is incomplete. The complete transformation is what we saw at closer to the end of part 1, where Pochita took completely over and had the power to erase devils from existence. So that's what they're trying to recreate. They want that Pochita, they want that Chainsaw Man back, which the only way to accomplish that is to, one, make him feared in the public, which him being a superhero for the last couple months was not good, so they needed to tarnish that reputation, which explains all of the chainsaw people. And 2, they needed Denji to be super duper sad and depressed, which explains all the other shit they've been doing to him, like showing him Nayuta's decapitated head. After the long-awaited break, finally getting to find out if this is Nayuta or not, we don't get an answer. Funnily enough, we actually don't find out. It's pretty clear just based off of the reaction from Barem and everyone else involved that, yeah, we can pretty much almost concretely say that that is definitely going to be Nayuta. For now. Until then, we've got bigger things to deal with, because the reason why you're hearing so much about this chapter is because Pochita is finally back in action. This, seeing Nayuta's head, is what finally breaks Denji. He's already been on just this downward spiral, especially even after he quote-unquote gets saved. He gets essayed. He has so many different things happen to him. He's thinking all of these people are living their lives happily. I wonder if they've all had the same experiences that I've had. And the truth ultimately is that no, Denji, no one has had the same experiences you have had ever in life. I think that is unfortunately the problem with just Chainsaw Man in general, is that you yourself entirely are just the unique situation here. So Barem gets decapitated in one of the most unique and interesting ways I think I've ever seen someone get decapitated before. And that might sound grim, that might sound morbid, but I've watched a lot of media in my life. I played a lot of video games, and I might be wrong. Maybe I'm forgetting something in my past. Maybe in the comments one of you guys can bring up seeing this before, but having it, your head squeezed down till it pops off, insane. Never could have imagined that in my entire life. Gotta give credits to Fujimoto on that one. Definitely a brutal and unique kill. But after that, we get introduced to where the chapter title comes from, Special Division 5. If you remember from Chainsaw Man Part 1, Denji, Power, Aki, they were all Special Division 4. So now we've put together Special Division 5 with an all-new pack of crazy hybrid devils. And to be honest with you, some of them are pretty obvious, but some of them just look a little funky. You've got what seems to be the alligator or crocodile devil. I'm going to imagine this person with the beanie is the devil. That's the best interpretation you're going to get from me. And then the other person, I think, might be like the eardrum, the going deaf devil. He's got the big giant ears. And then the other one, it just looks like a ghoul or like something, you know, the ghoul devil. It couldn't be the zombie devil. We know what the zombie devil already looks like. But the crazy part is we really don't even need to know what these devils' names are, because it seems like in the next chapter, they're already going to get cooked. Completely cooked. Because if you look at the very last panel, Pochita, the target that they're after, that they're specifically hunting and sicking this Special Division 5 on, is already getting turned on. Pochita's already behind them as they march off to go to where they first thought Pochita was. They're already going to get cooked, so I think that's why we didn't even get a proper introduction to everybody here. In regards to the entire chapter, I think it's great. I'm always happy to see a chapter where the story actually progresses. Part 2 has been such a slow burn, especially with 14 to 15 page chapters. A lot of people feel like they're one chapter split into 2, and I can see that, where all of last chapter and this chapter could have been one big chapter. It really does feel like not too much happens week to week in the Chainsaw Man chapters, but I will say I'm still enjoying part 2. I really want to see where this goes. For everyone that's saying that this is just part 1 done over, I think you're missing the point. I think that's always been the idea, is that part 2 has been this reflection of part 1. It's almost like history is repeating itself. The cycles and the same things are happening, just in different ways. I mean, you've had it all the way back where the Bat Devil showed up. We had a whole arc with the Eternity Devil coming back again. I think part 2 has the potential to cap off in such an amazing way, and we really don't even know all of the pieces on the chessboard right now. There's so many unknowns, and I think that's why part 2 is getting so much criticism, because part 2 has been going on for so long, yet so little has happened. Part 1 definitely felt like a much more concise and tight story, whereas this seems to be a little bit more loose, slow burn, but I really feel like it's all gonna tie together in a great way, guys. I've got hope. You can call me a coper, you can say that I'm glazing Fujimoto, you can always say everything, but I'm always interested to see where these stories go all the way up until the end point. And if you can stick the landing, then golly, sometimes the destination matters more than the journey, and sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes the journey matters more than the destination. But the most important part is that for a 97 chapter story, Chainsaw Man Part 1 was awesome. For what seems to be, if I'm not mistaken, a 74 chapter story, we've still got 23 chapters left to see how Fujimoto caps this off before we can say that he's, you know, taking the pacing too slow. But I digress. I'm happy to see Pochita back. I'm happy to see the kind of chaos that spreads from this. If you were paying attention, Yoru is definitely shook that full Chainsaw Man is back. Yoru is the one that wanted to fight Chainsaw Man. Realistically, this is what she's wanted the whole time. She should be the one that's smiling and happy the most, but she looks a little scared. And you have to remember that as much as Yoru wanted revenge, and as much as Yoru was clouded, Yoru's very arrogant. The War Devil is very, if anything, fickle, very short-sighted, doesn't really think things through until Pochita is staring them in the face with all of the fucking power that radiates off of him, and she goes, oh, that's right. Pochita did kill me, my 3 other horseman sisters, and plenty of other devils almost all at the same time. So we have to keep that in mind. Anyway, guys, as for Nayuta's fate, we're still kind of left in the dark, although, unlike a lot of people in the community, I'm pretty black-pilled in situations like this. I don't believe we are going to get any kind of fake outs. I think this is definitely Nayuta. Whether she can come back or not, that's another story. But is this Nayuta's decapitated head? I think so. As far as it goes, you know, maybe I'll jump on the Rize Cope train and hope that if anyone's coming to save us or help out in the situation, it's Rize, because I just know that somebody's got to help Denji through this, because I don't know what's getting him out of Pochita form this time. I don't even know if he needs a reason to come out of Pochita form with just based off the mental state that he's in. It's really exciting to know that the series is picking up in pace, picking up in speed. We're finally getting some knee-deep violence and just crazy stuff going on, which is always fun to see in Chainsaw Man. As much as I always love to see, not that I love to see it, but as much as I always love to see the character dynamics and Denji going through crazy stuff, and just the way that Fujimoto is really able to capture the tone, atmosphere, and emotion of the series, I also love seeing Fujimoto do crazy stuff like Pochita just obliterating these devils, no problem at all. And the end of the chapter is just one of the craziest things I think I've seen in any shonen manga, but that's just part of the course. So anyway, getting into it, the chapter kicks off right where we left off, with Pochita appearing right behind Special Division 5, Perception blitzing all of them, no problem at all, and the alligator crocodile hybrid, whatever is going on, because I guess it has that Voldemort head going on, it's able to realize what's going on and tells its body to jump, and it does, right before Pochita literally cleaves through all of the Special Division in one attack, which is, we know Pochita is deadly. I mean, it took out the Hell Devil super quickly, but this is just insane to see. It's so funny, and just amazing. It's so funny and just awesome, and not awesome in like the wow, that's super cool way. Awesome in like the whoa, I'm in awe way. You know, the way that you're supposed to use awesome, but we've just absolutely obliterated that word. Don't get me started on the Oxford Dictionary. Anyway, unfortunately, the alligator devil was not slick, did not avoid the attack, and still gets decapitated. Pochita is just standing there. Thankfully, public safety wasn't too stupid. They probably knew that Pochita was going to take them all out. However, I would argue that they're pretty freaking stupid regarding what happens next. Anyway, Special Division 6 comes out. It's part of the Centipede Devil, a bunch of other devils that don't even need introduction because they just get cut up by Pochita instantly. Now, Pochita does bleed, but they get all excited about it. I wasn't, because I knew it didn't mean anything. Pochita is going to take out every single person involved here. Now, you have things like the pill bug that tries to put up a defense. Yep, does absolutely nothing. Chainsaw Man just cleaves right through him. Now, the crazy thing is we get this awesome panel that reminds me of like the Darkness Devil page of just this crazy gore fest of Pochita holding the different heads of the different devils that he's collecting. It's almost like a food line where he's just slowly bringing them in more and more and more and eating them. And the problem with that is we know that any devils eaten by Chainsaw Man, the real Chainsaw Man, are forever lost to time, forgotten, and they do not resurrect. So, what did public safety think would be a good devil to bring to the party with Pochita? The Ear Devil. Yeah, no, literally the Ear Devil. I was wondering if it was the Tinnitus Devil, whatever the fuck it was that Fujimoto was gonna come up with. No, literally the Ear Devil. Not sure how powerful the fear of fucking ears are, but apparently not strong enough to face Pochita, because that's the first one to go, and the Ear Devil gets confirmed eaten by Pochita. Now, why is this bad? Why was this a bad idea from public safety to have this done? Well, as Yoru confirms with Katana Man, as Katana Man screams asking where the heck did Chainsaw Man go, Yoru goes, well, he disappeared. And he's like, huh? And she's like, he disappeared. She repeats herself because she doesn't hear anything. And then when she moves her hair back, she realizes there's no ears. There's no ears on the head. The entire concept of ears has been erased, deleted from society. What the frick are we gonna do? No one can hear anything for the rest of the entire series. The Ear Devil has to return. I mean, everyone's just walking around with no fucking ears for the rest of the series. There can't be a part 3. There's no way we can have a satisfying, climactic, emotional conclusion of Asa and Denji's relationship. There's no way any other character can communicate with the other. They're gonna have to use sign language for the rest of the series. This is fucking insane. Panels of Chainsaw Man are gonna be people doing sign language from now on, and people that don't read Chainsaw Man are gonna be like, what the hell? And then we get into part 3 and we're gonna be like, yeah, you know, Chainsaw Man characters stopped talking real dialogue since part 2, guys. Come on, we're in part 5 of Chainsaw Man. You guys should know that this is our JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stance. Our characters just don't have ears. Now, obviously, I'm being crazy just because I think this whole idea is fucking insane, and I just can't wait to see what Fujimoto does with it. I think it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a shonen manga of all time. Fujimoto does one of the craziest decapitations I've seen last week, and then pulls one of what might be one of the boldest narrative choices in shonen manga fucking history, in literature history, getting rid of all of your characters' ears for the foreseeable future. I'm just saying, I'm really curious to see what Fujimoto does with this. The last 2 chapters have definitely been unpredictable as all hell, because for the slow slog that we went through for a decent amount of time, and waiting for things to happen, and everyone complaining that part 2 is bad now, and nothing happens, and people are dropping it and saying, oh, Chainsaw Man used to be the series that I love, and I used to love this so much, and oh, this just doesn't do anything for me anymore. Part 2 is just not good, blah, 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 blah. The slow burn holder honors, the slow burn hold always win. They always win, because you know what? I said, you know what? I'm just going to let Fujimoto cook. I'm going to let him take his time. Sure. We could have combined 3 of these chapters into one. Sure. You know, it feels like for the last 2-3 months, not much has happened since the Fire Devil attacked. All I'm saying is that right now we're at a peak. We're at a height right now. We're on the top of the mountain. Chapter 173, Hard of Hearing, which in my opinion is generally one of the most interesting developments of a plot of a shonen anime in the longest time, that subsequently gets dropped almost in the exact chapter after I praised it so much. But I'll hold all my opinions to the end. We've still got a jam-packed chapter going on today in Chainsaw Man, so we'll get right into it without wasting any time. First things that we're going to be seeing is just the effects of losing ears throughout the entire world. So we see how it's affecting different animals, different human beings. It's even affecting people back at public safety who are trying to confirm what the heck is even going on with Pochita and the entire battle with the different public safety divisions. There's a girl that works for public safety that's basically trying to confirm if the ear devil has actually been eaten, which, I mean, the one thing I will say, and that I said in the last chapter review, is that whoever decided to send the ear devil must have been the dumbest person on public safety that I've ever met in my life, and they need to be fired. Granted, the events of this chapter make it seem like this could be a part of their plan, although I'm not really sure what that plan is. It's definitely a very unpredictable plan, to say the very least. But after confirming that the ear devil has definitely been eaten, because she keeps announcing what's been eaten, and none of the hostages or whatever these people are able to hear her, after confirming that the ear devil has been eaten, we have a team of public safety officers that are basically doing some kind of ritual and offering to a devil that's down in hell. We're not sure what exact devil it is. If someone does know and I'm just forgetting, please let me know down in the comments. But it seems to me that this is either a primal fear or just a very strong devil, similar to like the hell devil always getting summoned by public safety when we're trying to fight big threats. After cutting off their finger and then declaring, I guess, the part of their body that they're going to be giving up to the devil, which at this point I really have to question, who signs up for public safety at this point? I understand, you know, you have people like from part 1 Aki who literally for no other reason just wanted revenge. And I mean, I guess you have people like Kobeni who just literally had no other choice in life but to be like a sex worker, which is crazy, by the way. I think she might have just needed a different family, but I digress. It's crazy to me that these people are so gung-ho and willing to just sacrifice everything for these small little operations that usually A, don't work, or B, are just the small little blip on this big, large scale of problems in the world. Honestly, the entire world of Chainsaw Man is just foobar. If you ask me, there's not really any redeeming qualities, but again, this isn't what we're here for. We're here to talk about ears getting fucked. Not actually, let me rephrase my statement there, oh boy. But, so after declaring a ritual, they declare HIT and declaring what part of the body they want to give up. This devil basically uses teleportation, some kind of portal, to throw their fist through it and crush Chainsaw Man with all of their might. However, as we know, Pochita is just a beast, the absolute smoke demon of smoke demons, so that literally did nothing, shrugs it off completely. If anything, Chainsaw Man actually did more damage to the devil than it took itself by cutting off 2 of their hands. Then we get what's supposed to be, I guess, the big stinger of the chapter, which is Yoshida returns with his octopus devil contract to grab Pochita, making Pochita spit up the ear devil, returning hearing to the world of Chainsaw Man. And I think, as interesting as the next chapters may be, my big question is, to have such a big hype moment like getting ears removed for all of society, the world even, just to have Chainsaw Man puke it up right after, a little bit of a drop in tension right there. The stakes were raising very high. Pochita showed up, killing everybody. Then we have this crazy thing. Again, apparently this may be all of public safety's plan, considering they confirmed the ear devil was eaten, then summoned this primal fear devil or whatever devil it is to attack, then sent Yoshida to have him spit up the ear devil. I just think we shouldn't have brought the ear devil. I said this last chapter, I'll say it again. regardless of whatever plan we have, because I've seen plenty of comments down below. They're trying to get Chainsaw Man to eat some of the most important things ever to turn the public more and more against Chainsaw Man. They're trying to get Chainsaw Man to erase things and get him to erase certain things so they can come into power. Well, a lot of those theories just went out the window the moment that he coughed the ear devil up instantly. Again, where Fujimoto takes the rest of this Pochita Chainsaw Man moment, I've yet to see. Yoshida showing up is an interesting development. We haven't seen Yoshida since all the way back when Asa and Yoru were trying to escape. I really don't know what to expect going forward. And it's not really excitement of, oh my god, what could happen next? It's more so like, Fujimoto, what are we where are we going with this? But I'll be here to the very end. I'm going to be reading chapter after chapter because Chainsaw Man is my shit. I love Denji. I love the story of Denji, and I really, really want to see how Asa and Yoru fit into everything going forward. Public safety is a bit of an anomaly. They've been all types of whack this whole part. But hey, we will see where everything goes going forward. Again, from something that I thought was one of the greatest developments in a shonen battle anime, where I was like, where the hell are we going to go forward in the story with no one being able to hear? Even if we did like a whole arc of no one being able to hear, that would be cool. And then we returned and Chainsaw Man coughed it up. One chapter? Fujimoto, what do you got cooking? Because what's coming up after this better be insane. This basically reveals the entire plot that public safety has, or at least certain parts of public safety have, in order to exploit Chainsaw Man's erasure of devils and the ability to eat and cough up things to basically not only better society, but just better human evolution entirely. What I assume to be the public safety higher ups, the main people in charge, the financial directors, the HR people, stuff like that, right? So, long story short, after the erasure of the ear devil and then Yoshida making Chainsaw Man cough it back up, that gave them all the information that they needed to kind of make sure that their plan with Chainsaw Man is going to work. At least Public Safety Division 7's plan. Fumiko, what did Nayuta call her? Dumpster woman? I don't remember, but again, name still fits. Long story short, what Fumiko's plan is, or at least their division of Public Safety's plan is to exploit Chainsaw Man's ability to eat and erase the devils. And what that means is this. For the last 4 minutes after the ear devil got eaten, ears ceased to exist, right? People couldn't hear. People were talking and no one could understand it. They took down all the information they needed to make sure that they would remember all of these things happening, because as we know, Chainsaw Man affects the memories. The main guy even says so as much as like we all talked about and wrote down, not remembering what ears were, yet we don't have any memory of this conversation. That's very weird. What Dumpster Woman says basically amounts to, look, while we have Chainsaw Man in the Black Chainsaw Man Pochita form, let's do as much as we possibly can to advance human society. And what we mean by is this. The vague answer is we could feed it all different kinds of philosophies and different kinds of evil things and bad diseases and, you know, evil countries and stuff like that to make the world a better place. But more concretely, right the fuck now, what we can do is we can make humanity immortal, guys. We can literally get rid of aging entirely. Now, a lot of the higher brass are asking a lot of the correct questions in this instance because they're like, well, does getting rid of aging mean that we don't die? Does getting rid of aging mean that our bodies no longer, you know, decompose over time and we stop, you know, growing and we just become, or everyone stays the same age that they are now? What are the things that this means? And Fumiko is completely honest with this guy and he's like, hey, look, we have no idea, but it's worth a shot, right? You know, the fact that we can eliminate aging right now is insane because basically it's revealed that the primal devil from last chapter is the aging devil. 100% is a primal fear devil with one of the most powerful abilities in the world and one of the most strongest fears in the entire universe, which is aging, which makes sense. They have come to an agreement with the aging devil, which basically says that I will get rid of aging for you and happily die. I have no attachment to the world whatsoever. And as stated before, the phenomenon of getting rid of hearing led to cell phones and radios still existing, people still remembering what hearing was, and also ear picks and everything like that were still sold in arts and crafts. So again, Removing aging, we have no idea what this will do, but we've made the pact with this devil. This devil is willing to do the deed and die to Chainsaw Man, and we have a chance to potentially level up humanity in a way that's never been seen before. So we should take this chance, right? What's the offer? What's the small price to pay for the aging devil's contract that we can feed it to the Chainsaw Man devil? Oh, just 10,000 Japanese children to be, taken out on a date, per se, in front of mirrors so the aging devil can see. Just like we saw before how the public safety members cut their fingers off to give tribute and have it hit Chainsaw Man and make it cough up the ear devil, but like to the extreme. And now you could argue, 10,000 children, the whole world can get rid of aging. Again, we still don't know what the ramifications of that could mean. That could potentially mean that, all right, everyone is free from death and we're able to just live forever, la-di-da, this is amazing. But also, Chainsaw Man world, it's never that simple. That could also mean that everyone is stuck at the age they are now. And of course, you've got this old fart, the finance director. Bro's literally on his last legs as we speak, going, fine, no problem, fuck them kids, let's go, let's live forever. And you know what? It's crazy is this guy, of course, doesn't care because he's trying to not die. Again, he looks like he's already got one foot in the grave here. He's already been collecting kids for who knows what reason. Apparently, his grandson's been collecting all these orphan children from devil attacks. So, I digress. My point is, of course, this old fuck doesn't care. And you have a couple people in the higher-ups that are like, actually, this is kind of fucked up. Are we really going to sacrifice 10,000 children's futures just for the sake of humanity's survival? And they're not even talking about the world's survival at this point. They're mostly talking about Japan. They could give less of a shit about the other people. So it's also possible that the aging devil making that pact or whatever, maybe only for Japan. I would imagine it's for the entire world. That's what the ear and mouth devil's been saying. It's unclear. I don't know why they say that they're only doing this for Japan, even though this will affect the entire world. But it does show that they're selfish. We already knew Old Man was selfish, but it shows that he's even more selfish because he's really only doing it for his nationalism. The one guy that sticks up, that one poor man that sticks up for the kids and says, you know what, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm not going to collect all of these kids for no reason. They're also talking about collecting kids that aren't even Japanese and then just giving them Japanese citizenship so that way they don't have to take all of their own. Wild. This guy goes, I can't do this. And the old fart is like, you can do this. And he's like, no, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not doing it, and gives him the side eye. This old man looks at this motherfucker and goes, oh, well, you can't? Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember that you actually have 4 kids of your own. That would get us closer to 10,000. And he's like, oh, you know what? Actually, never mind. I can sacrifice those kids. Fuck them kids. You are right. I don't know what the lapse in judgment I had. Unexplainable. Must have had a stroke there or something. It's insane to me how evil these public safety motherfuckers are. I understand, again, Fumiko makes a good point. They don't know how long they're going to be able to contain Chainsaw Man, if they can contain him whatsoever. They don't know how much longer they'll be able to keep him in this moment and keep him distracted. They might never get this opportunity again, depending on what happens to this. So why not take the opportunity and advance human society as much as possible? Start with the aging devil, and if we still have more time after that, then we can take out we can take out cancer or something afterwards, While I understand the sentiment, the contract is insane. Absolutely insane to me. And again, if the aging devil goes, and doesn't necessarily mean that people live forever, they just stay again at the age that they've always been at. I hope this old fart is just stuck that way forever. That's what you get for sacrificing all those kids. You're an ass, dick. But anyway, right before Fumiko goes to make the call, after all the higher-ups decide that, hey, we're going to supply the aging devil with their show, sadly, and we will be able to make the pact. Right before Fumiko makes the call, Chainsaw Man eats the mouth devil. Again, some of these fucking chainsaw devils, again, I know a lot of people in some of my comments have been like, oh, they're clearly plotting to show the strength of Chainsaw Man and show whatever, and obviously that plan amounted to be true. They're going to use the power of Chainsaw Man to advance their own, well-beings. But I think we could have tried and proven Chainsaw Man's power and came to this conclusion and tried to convince all the other higher ups of this without sacrificing such integral, like, all right, the ear devil was the crazy thing. We got it back. We're good to go. You're telling me you needed to also include the mouth devil, the octopus devil, the bitter devil, and then I think there was one other one that got eaten as well. We had to include mouth. I don't know why. I think we could have thunk of a couple other devils to send. What the fuck is the future devil doing? Fuck that guy. Dude's a dickhead. You know what I mean? Trickster, douche, Loki head ass, Why'd we have to get rid of mouth devil? Seems like it was pretty integral now, of all things. But yeah, it's the most interesting thing is how society adapts to the concept that is lost to time. Like Fumiko says, it's interesting how even though ears were lost, the concept of hearing was still understood. The idea of, radio, cell phones, all of these things, microphones, all still existed in society, even though no one had ears to hear it. It's very, very weird. And even though, people still had ear picks, they were just considered, arts and craft as opposed to an actual fucking ear pick to clean your ear out with. So interesting developments. I will say that, there's a lot of people that hate the slow burn of Chainsaw Man Part 2. I think I've said it so many times. There's people, all over the place you'll see that say Chainsaw Man sucks now. But chapters like this prove that Fujimoto is really cooking with the story. And I know he said he's not really enjoying the drawing process so much, but it's clear to me that the writing aspect, the story-wise parts, and the character development and everything like that is really the most impactful part of Chainsaw Man, and Fujimoto really knows how to capture that aesthetic perfectly. And when we do have big chapters like this, you really feel it. You really, really do feel it. Chapter 175, titled Both Hands. And I will not lie to you, the first time I saw that chapter name, I got very worried, to say the least, that Fujimoto was taking us down another similar path to a recent chapter that shall not be named. But to get overall to the point, I won't talk too long about this chapter because the mouth devil was consumed, mouths are gone, which means there's absolutely no dialogue in this chapter whatsoever. It's pretty much just all out war between the world and Chainsaw Man. So sometimes I'm all for that, but I'm definitely excited to see what's going to happen in the incoming chapters after this, because one, the cliffhanger we get left off on is very interesting, which I'll get into in just a moment. But what I want to focus on in the very beginning of this video is, with the mouth devil being consumed, Chainsaw Man can no longer eat more devils, but he also can't spit any devils up unless, let's say, for example, they rip open his stomach or something like that. That might be the only way that they can actually pull devils back out with no mouth. They can't just get him to spit them out like they did before. I'm really not sure what happened to Yoshida. I know the octopus devil was consumed, so it's possible that Yoshida was KIA in action. It's unclear unless maybe someone can point out a panel where his decapitated head is lying around somewhere. Again, the octopus devil was consumed, so we can assume a lot from that, right? As we start the chapter, the one thing you'll notice is Chainsaw Man isn't just going out and slaughtering every innocent civilian that's out on the town. It's very similar to Pochita from Part 1. Even though he was an absolute menace to society, he's not necessarily a bad-natured person. Remember, Part 1, Pochita just wanted to get a burger, and we got one of the craziest scenes we'll ever get in life. Now, Chainsaw Man has people coming at him. He has people from the Chainsaw Man Church. Of course, we have been conditioned, at least the world has, to fear Chainsaw Man, especially with this big Chainsaw Man uprising going on. So they start to attack him, and if you attack Chainsaw Man, especially the Black Chainsaw Man, you're gonna get cooked pretty dang quickly. Like, actually pretty quickly. Now, of course, even though you have some of the strongest people in the verse, not Katana Man, but you have a Primal Fear devil, the Aging devil, and you also have Yoru, the War devil, one of the 4 horsemen, granted little, weakened, very weakened state, especially with -1 arm, and, spoilers, might be down another one later. But the point is, Katana Man kneels down to do his big move. The public safety sacrifices some more agents in order to have the aging devil do a fist combo, and Asa Yoru is now jumping down to get a aerial attack. In one split second, who could have guessed, they all got sliced and diced into tiny pieces. Katana Man gets his arms taken off, his head taken off. I mean, good riddance, too. Aging Devil gets their hands cut off at the wrist. And as I mentioned before, Yoru, who was already, debilitating poor Asa Mitaka with the one arm gone, now just lost Asa's second arm with apparently no intentions or, ability to regenerate them. Come on, Yoru. I need you. War Devil, I need you to step it up here. I really need you to. Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen going forward. The cliffhanger we get left off on could go multiple, various different ways. I know a lot of you guys in the comments sometimes are just keyed in on 5 chapters ahead of me. I have no idea how sometimes you guys are just able to get into Fujimoto's head like that. But sincerely, with Chainsaw Man staring Yoru down in this instance, Yoru, of course, no arms, probably heavily injured, kneels. You could say this is a kneel in submission. She's bending the knee. You could say this is a kneeling in exhaustion and she's still ready to fight. It's just she has no limbs to use right now. Whatever you want to say, as Chainsaw Man approaches her, the chapter ends off on Yoru looking up and it just zooming in on their eyes. I'm not sure what could be surprising Yoru in this moment. Maybe it's someone attacking Chainsaw Man from behind and stabbing them in the stomach, like I mentioned before, to get them to get all of those devils out. Or maybe it's Chainsaw Man eating Yoru completely, or something different entirely, like a peaceful gesture. We really do not know at all. I'm very interested to see what Fujimoto does. The ear thing came and went very quickly, so I'm not really expecting this whole no mouth thing to last very long, especially considering that no dialogue Chainsaw Man chapters for 5-10 chapters would be oof. But also at the same time, that might be what exactly Fujimoto is looking to do. He's so wonky at this point, you can never really tell. But yeah, I'm never gonna spend more time than I need to yapping. I just don't believe in it. This chapter was, most Chainsaw Man chapters are short, but the fact that there's just no dialogue at all means there's not really much to analyze. We can only just eye goggle at the cool action and hope that whatever happens next chapter, Fujimoto keeps up the energy that he's created. Fujimoto has given us an absolute feast today. Not only is it one of the longest chapters of Chainsaw Man page-wise that we've gotten in a long time, I'm talking 18, baby, not 14. It is the source material that is in this chapter is absolutely insane. And let's just get right into it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. So, of course, everyone was correct. The last chapter was leading off into a flashback right as Pochita is trying to land the finishing blow on Yoru. Yoru and Asa are discussing how far the War Devil's powers have actually progressed and grown to the point that they don't even need to call out the weapon's name anymore to turn things that they love or even know into a weapon, to the point that Yoru can just turn a bar of soap into something. We've even seen Asa do this to the extreme potential when she turned her entire apartment into a weapon during that quick scuffle with Yoshida, who, by the way, just keeps tiptoeing in and out of the story. I have no idea what Fujimoto plans to do with Yoshida, but not only has he been super sus, he has just been teleporting in and out like Nightcrawler. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if maybe he died after Pochita killed the octopus devil. We know his friend got eaten, but something tells me that sly little fox is still alive. During the flashback, Asa rightfully questions why Yoru is so determined to fight Denji. At this point, all of the chaos that's surrounding Chainsaw Man is essentially benefiting her. They're starting wars, the Chainsaw Man cult, the pseudo Chainsaw Mans are killing people by the thousands. It's overall just building up her power. That's part of the reason why they're able to do as much as they can. So why is Yoru still trying so hard to fight Denji? Can't she just call it quits? And the one thing I'll say, argue what you will against part 2, my favorite thing about this entire section of Chainsaw Man is the relationship between Asa and Yoru. These two have spent so much time together and have gotten to know each other unwillingly And whether they like it or not, they really do have this close bond. It's something that shows so much in this chapter. Because the thing is Asa knows that if Yoru defeats Denji, she's still not going to be happy. She's not going to get the satisfaction she's looking for. So what's the big struggle? And it's here that we actually learn that Yoru's not this evil, menacing, selfish devil, or at least not as much as we thought she was. Because part of the reason why she wants to fight Chainsaw Man is because a lot of her comrades, according to her, have been eaten by Chainsaw Man, and she wants to have them barfed up so they can come back. Which is most likely the nuclear missile devil and all the other devils that she's mentioned offhandedly in the beginning of the part 2. Now, I will say this is a little bit different from the selfish revenge aspect we've come to know Yoru for, but at the same time, she admits that there's also a little bit of that in there as well, because afterwards she starts to cry when questioned further, saying that she just wants to be known as a more fierce devil than Chainsaw, and that she'd give anything to accomplish that. And when Asa asks Yoru if she would actually even win in a fight against Chainsaw Man, Yoru reveals that this whole entire time she's had 2 secret trump cards that could single-handedly win her the fight. And when Asa asks why she would just not use it this entire time or even tell her about that, she says it goes against the entire idea of saving her comrades in the first place. And I'll just say that the fact that Yoru was even willing to tell Asa about this so candidly and openly shows really how far that they've come and that they're intertwined and together in this through it all no matter what. But it also puts into question just how far Yoru is willing to go and what side of the coin does she lay on? Is she helping her friends or is she doing it for herself? And in this final moment, when Pochita's bringing down that killing blow on her, she makes that distinction right away and realizes, you know what? Would I give up my 2 own children, my own flesh and blood, to win this fight right now? Her 2 secret trump cards that defy everything that she thought she stood for. Yoru says, absolutely I do. And in the craziest turn of events I think we've seen in a while, and I feel like we've been saying this for so many chapters because Fujimoto, let's be honest, has been on a roll lately, Yoru calls in the Gun and Tank Devil, which the remaining fragments of the Gun Devil that are stationed all around, the Soviet Union, Mexico, that spread all the different percentages that are spread throughout the world, all crash through their holdings and run right to Asa and Yoru. And I imagine the Tank Devil has got to be pretty damn dangerous as well. We already know that the Gun Devil was an almost world-ending level threat if it was just left loose and didn't, take its own self out. Trust me. The fact that we have these 2 devils, let alone the Gun Devil alone being called back, and Yoru is using them as weapons against Pochita, she turns them into gauntlets, and with one simple finger gun blast, not only does she immediately push Pochita back, she rips off 2 of his chainsaw arms like they're nothing. What a fucking development. And Yoru also, in the meantime, ripped the Mouth Devil out specifically from Chainsaw Man's stomach, which has returned dialogue to the series, thankfully, which only means that we are definitely going to be entering a nice string of fight chapters. Whatever Fujimoto has in store, I'm all for it. He has been cooking pristinely lately, and I'm just going to let him keep going. Next week is break week, sadly, but Fujimoto is again out there doing the Lord's work, so he needs to take as much time as he needs. More 18-page chapters, please, I beg of you. And we're going to be picking up right where we left off after the last chapter, where Yoru, of course, decided that defeating Pochita was way more worth saving her comrades whatsoever, despite that long, meaningful conversation that she had with Asa, basically saying that if she sacrifices her comrades, this is all essentially for nothing anyway. And despite that, in the final moments before she herself passes, she thinks, fuck it, and basically just sacrifices the Gun Devil. Tank Devil has what we know is, I believe, 20 to 25% of the Gun Devil broken out of the Soviet Union, and however much of the Tank Devil was apparently hidden in Mexico. And using the combined efforts of both of those weapons of war, Yoru was actually able to retrieve a decent amount of her original power and shoot, a finger bang. I wish we had a better name for that, but it is what it is, right into Chainsaw Man and basically return the ground to neutral. And at the start of this chapter, we basically get full confirmation that Yoru did also shoot out the mouth devil from Chainsaw Man's stomach, which, great aim. Even though I'm very certain the translators were happy to just collect the bag, doing absolutely nothing for a couple more chapters. We're not that lucky. The ear devil ended in like 1 to 2 chapters, and now the mouth devil is gone in 1 to 2 as well. But either way, Yoru thinks about what she's really done. I mean, she's basically given up her children, these weapons of mass destruction, horrors of war that were born originally from her. I mean, there's no guns, artillery, and all of that stuff without war. Not for nothing. So she really realizes what she's done, but at the end of the day, feels like it's completely justified. Asa is, of course, completely detached from this idea of having to beat Chainsaw Man in a fight. To be completely honest, she just wants to help Denji for the feelings that she still doesn't understand about Denji. And it's just crazy that, like, no matter what happens with the end of these two, I'm sure Denji, of all people, is gonna get past it, but Asa still has to deal with that crazy situation that Yoru put her in with Denji a couple chapters ago. That's still burned into my mind. But thinking about Denji primarily, Asa asks Yoru, like, is this really going to help Denji? Is killing the Black Chainsaw Man going to fulfill Denji's wish of becoming a normal boy like Pinocchio? Because Yoru says, yeah, that's what Famine says, but she doesn't look back at Asa when she says this. So to be completely honest with you, not only do I think Yoru not believe this, I don't think Famine believes this, and I personally don't believe this now, just based off of this interaction, because you have to really think about it. It's really in both Famine and Yoru's interests to just completely obliterate Pochita. I mean, he's already killed them before, now they're on their way back up and up. It wouldn't be surprising to me that they were just manipulating Denji, mostly Fami. Yoru's just playing along, just manipulating Denji in order to get what they want, which is mostly just killing Chainsaw Man. The idea was that they would replace Pochita's heart after it's dead with a human heart, and that way Denji can just live an ordinary life, not as Chainsaw Man. But to be honest with you, despite that technically being what Denji says he wants right now, Denji's in a state of mania at the current moment. He thinks Nayuta is dead. His entire apartment just burned down. All of his dogs are, don't even remind me about the dogs, I will lose my mind. But the Denji is in a complete state of shock, and he just got essayed a couple chapters ago. He doesn't know what is even going on right now. It's absolutely insane to say that Denji knows what he wants now. Anyway, we love Denji, and I just care about him as I would like a little brother. So I hate to see him get manipulated and taken advantage of like this, because it seems like that's what's happening. Asa asks if Yoru is really okay with this, you know, getting rid of her children and sacrificing the things that she claims she was fighting for in order to achieve this win. Despite the bond that they formed, this level of trust that we saw in the last chapter where Yoru was willing to confide in Asa, and they've both come such a long way and have grown such a great relationship, they truly are different species entirely, and they always will be. Because when Asa asks, is it really okay to sacrifice your children like this, Yoru does turn around and looks Asa in the eyes, so you know she means this statement. She says, aren't children parents' property anyway? And it's just a big reminder that Asa is a human, and Yoru isn't just Yoru. She's also the war devil, the amalgamation of the fear of war as a concept. And I don't think that these two people, despite the relationship they formed, will ever always see eye to eye on this, because you can see the look on Asa's face. And we know Asa's controversial relationship with parenthood, because we've already seen how she feels so guilty for her mom's death, despite her mom probably wanting things to go this way, right? Her mom would have wanted to save her daughter over anything. Most parents would. But Asa's always going to have that survivor's guilt. To her, she chose a cat over her mom during that Typhoon Devil attack. It's to hear those words from Yoru of all people and be reminded of that trauma for her. We don't even know what happened to Asa's dad, but we do know that both of her parents died in a devil attack, whether that was before or after the mom incident. Regardless of how Asa reacts to this is going to have an effect on her, and it's going to change the way that Asa looks at Yoru. Anyway, after all of that, we do get back to the fight between Yoru and Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man appears from the building, and Yoru does her normal declaration, general-like, crazy war hero yelling at Chainsaw Man, "I'm gonna fight you. Do you remember me? Was the pain enough?" All that crazy stuff, because Yoru, at the end of the day, is a fucking madman. We have to remember this. Chainsaw Man, of course, of all things, just fucks right off, which is absolutely hilarious. We go right back into the normal Fujimoto shenanigans, and I can tell he's really having fun writing this again, because the couple of panels of Yoru just... Where did he go? That is hysterical. And of course, where else would Pochita go but to terrorize the local woman population of Japan? Because that's what he does when he is out. He literally just has the most bare minimum instinctual desires of Denji the human. As far as Pochita knows, he's like, I'm gonna chase what Denji wants, and seems to go for a blood drive. It's unclear if maybe Pochita wants blood and he just wants people to give him blood because he's holding a sign of blood, give me blood. He did get hurt pretty bad, so maybe he wants to be healed. Pochita is just speaking gibberish, same as he did with Kobeni and the Kobeni hamburger scene, basically replaying that is in a completely different vibe. And Pochita is saying, in my opinion, what could be Nayuta. It's like Va Gya Gya or something like that. I can't believe I just literally tried to translate that to you guys, but it could be Nayuta. You know, Denji is calling out for, because remember, that's the last thing that he wanted. That's what turned Denji into Pochita. It could just be what Denji's heart truly wants, which is, despite, again, what Denji consciously not knowing what he wants, subconsciously, he knows he wants to be Chainsaw Man, whether he likes it or not, but at the same time, he also wants to have a happy life with Nayuta. And you know what? Sometimes that may not always be together, but he will always fight to find a way, and I think that's what Denji will realize at the end of this. And hopefully, Asa, understanding Denji on a level that no other woman truly has, I hope that she's maybe able to figure that out and somehow stop Yoru from doing what, in my opinion, is definitely cap and not a way to save Denji. The last moment of the chapter is what seems to be Yoru making a deal with the Gun Devil of some sort, or at least with fulfilling a contract that the original Gun Devil had, which is revoking the index fingers of 400,000 National Pistol Association members in the United States of America, which... I have a couple, sound bites on that. One, this is why you always read contracts, because I guarantee you there was some fine print in this crazy Chainsaw Man world that was when they were signing up, all those motherfuckers did not even read it. And they're like, yeah, I want to be a National Pistol. You mean I get a 10% discount on my bullets when I go to the range? I'll sign any paper you give me. And look at you, not having any index fingers for the rest of your life now. Damn. That is insane. The NPA, stay away, or at least read before you join in. It's like that movie they made with the button, you're just taking that chance. There's 3.5 million members, only 400,000 of them got hit. So you've also got pretty good odds. Maybe you don't need to read the contract, but remember, think about that every single time you press accept on that Apple terms and conditions. Next time you update your phone. In a couple years, when you don't have index fingers, come back to this video and comment. Yoru poses like the Statue of Liberty after fulfilling this part of the contract, and as her finger begins to twitch, the statue also moves, alluding to there being something inside. Maybe there actually is, God forbid, a nuclear warhead or some kind of missile underneath the Statue of Liberty. I mean, there's always been theories and crazy, scary stories about what's inside the Statue of Liberty. I believe there's even an analog horror, the Mandala catalog, if I'm not mistaken, that literally uses something like that in the Statue of Liberty. So who knows what Fujimoto is about to spring on us, but we do know that it's going to be absolutely insane, because Yoru isn't playing around. Yoru is trying to find Denji and Pochita right now, and despite Pochita trying to go off on his crazy, ridiculous antics at the moment, she's having none of it, and Yoru will destroy the entire planet if she needs to, because let's remember, they're in Japan. The Statue of Liberty is on the entire opposite end of the world, so I don't know how many people the Statue of Liberty is about to crush on its way over here to get here and fight Pochita, but it's not gonna look good, in my honest opinion. It really seems like one of the only things that might be able to break Pochita out of this spell is finding out if Nayuta is actually dead or not. We still do not know what the actual status is. I'm of firm belief that it's possible this was Nayuta's real decapitated head. I know we've seen multiple theories about Nayuta not having the mole on that decapitated head. All I'm saying is, it's not that crazy to think that the mole just wasn't there. We have to remember that there are sometimes inconsistencies. Nayuta could be alive, Nayuta could be dead. It also could be possible Nayuta's decapitated head might still be able to be put back on. So I think Nayuta is going to be the only thing that we can save, especially if it is the case that that's what Pochita's calling out for. If it's not Nayuta that's going to stop Pochita, then it's got to be Asa that stops Yoru. Because again, if she's got 25% of the Gun Devil, which we saw about 20% of that fight Makima before and how much craziness that was able to cause upon the world. We've already got insane contracts being upheld. We've got Pochita, who we know if he decides to start taking things seriously, he can do some pretty decent damage himself. And right now, public safety has yet to respond. And we know that they are currently planning to, which with the Age Devil, there's going to be a 3-way deadlock going on in about a second or two. Because the more power Yoru gets and the more that she's able to fight on par with not just Pochita, but the entire public safety division that's about to mobilize, which also has the power of a primal fear, which is all encompassing on potentially getting humans to take advantage of Pochita and potentially evolve the human race to never age again. There's so many moving pieces to this small little fight. And I have to say that the slow burn of Part 2 Chainsaw Man has truly and effectively done its job of making everything blow up at once. It took a very long time to get here. I will not deny that. But right now, while we're in the what seems to be climax, or at least the most hype, biggest moment of all that we've had in this almost 80 chapter run, knowing that Part 1 ended in 97 chapters, we've still got about 20 or so to go. All I know is I'm going to be here for it, guys. I'm excited to see whatever the hell Yoru is going to be bringing out, and I'm definitely excited to see how public safety responds. But most importantly, all I care about is Denji finding a way to be happy. The sheer difference in power and just aura that we get from primal fears like the Aging Devil to even extremely strong devils like Chainsaw Man, or even Horsemen of the Apocalypse like War, because it's very clear that how the Aging Devil is even looking at these two devils like their children just means how much more powerful something like Aging is compared to Chainsaw Man and War. And despite the Aging Devil giving Chainsaw Man everything that he needs to continue fighting, being more than willing to give him blood, and also being willing to give him as many limbs in his entire body as possible to regenerate and keep fighting, it seems like the quote-unquote blood that Pochita is looking for isn't the kind of blood that the Aging Devil is offering. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any other future Chainsaw Man videos. I not only cover the series weekly, but probably any other series you may be reading weekly or monthly. So please feel free to subscribe so you don't miss that. And most importantly, thank you for watching. So last chapter, one of the big things that we learned is pieces of the Gun Devil, or at least the amalgamation of fingers and body parts that Yoru used in the contract that they just filled up, is existing in the Statue of Liberty. Now, again, whether this is just a portion of the Gun Devil that was always hidden within the Statue of Liberty, whether the United States knew it or not, it doesn't surprise me that the United States would be holding 2 parts of the Gun Devil. I mean, that would explain at least some of the mass shootings going on, but I digress. Yoru is able to utilize a contract, whether it was created in that moment or was always put in forth in the National Pistol Association's terms and conditions, which is why you always read those things. Every time you update your iPhone, you may or may not be making a contract with a devil that you are not aware of. So keep that in mind. By connecting with over 300,000 index fingers, Yoru is able to shoot giant rockets out of this turret in the Statue of Liberty, which is one of the coolest things Fujimoto has drawn in a long time, but 2, actually insane, because what we find out in this chapter is it's not bullets that this turret is firing. It's legitimately just giant fucking fingertips that are being flown through the entire world at the targets, which is just insane. Imagine you turn around and just a giant finger is coming at you, and then that's all you know, you're in heaven at that point. And amongst all this destruction that is being caused by not just Yoru, but by Chainsaw Man and everything that's happening in between, Asa is finally realizing this innocent, I shouldn't say innocent, this friendly devil that we've spent all this time with and has built a relationship with. Yoru and Asa have always kind of butt heads, but as the series has moved on, they have slowly come to an understanding. It's something that I talked about a lot in my previous videos of Chainsaw Man because, in my opinion, it's one of the best parts of part 2 of Chainsaw Man, is the dynamic between Asa and Yoru and just how far they've come and empathize and realize what the two things that these two characters truly want. And I think now Asa can't ignore it anymore. She's realizing that Yoru is more than willing to not only destroy the entire world to get what she wants, but she is more than willing to ignore all of Asa's needs, wants, and desires for her own. At the end of the day, this relationship that they formed is purely conditional. Yoru needs to get what she wants. What does Asa want? I think at this point she just wants Denji to be okay and to live a normal life. She wants what Denji wants, but Yoru is, at the end of the day, a manipulative piece of work because everything she says at this point is just a flat out lie. And I think that's very clear. And I think it's beginning to trigger Asa's PTSD in regards to the Typhoon Devil and her mother's death. I mean, the other chapters before, we've literally seen Yoru make fun of the parent-child dynamic, even inadvertently, not realizing, even though she should with the level of connection her and Asa have, not realizing that she's triggering Asa's PTSD of Asa losing her mom to the Typhoon Devil. And how did Asa lose her mom to the Typhoon Devil? Well, the Typhoon Devil and the Bomb Devil were in a giant fight with Chainsaw Man, destroying the city and causing nothing but damage to innocent people and civilians that just happened to get caught in the blast. And if anything, we haven't really seen the civilian death toll besides the index fingers getting cut off, but I have to imagine with the amount of damage Yoru is causing to the city, there's definitely at least one mom or dad that's gotten taken away from their child. And as sad as that is to say, it makes Asa realize that not only is Yoru a devil, someone that isn't, a human like them, someone that can't be negotiated with on equal terms, but Asa's realizing that Yoru doesn't really give quite much of a fuck about her, Denji, or anything else, because every single reason and every single time Asa tries to bring something up, Yoru has an excuse. Oh, yeah, this is gonna work. This is gonna turn Denji back. Oh, yeah, I just have to sacrifice my children to fight Denji and then everything will be fine. I just have to eat Chainsaw Man and turn them into a weapon and they'll be fine. I just have to do this and it will be fine. It seems like Yoru is at this point just manipulating Asa's emotions, and the only way she knows how to is to tell her that Denji will be okay at the end of this. And every time Asa's like, "Are you sure?" Yoru's like, "Yeah, definitely, I'm sure," but doesn't seem, too confident about that to me. And if Yoru is more than willing to put other children in the same position as Asa was in her trauma, it's safe to say that Yoru isn't the person that Asa once thought she was. And also, the Aging Devil makes full appearance last chapter and talks a lot more this chapter in regards to hopefully being eaten by Chainsaw Man due to public safety's negotiation with it, where they can get rid of aging as a whole and evolve humanity so long as the Aging Devil is eaten by Chainsaw Man entirely, just like we saw the Mouth and Ears Devil disappeared. In response to this, the Aging Devil just wants to watch all of the kids that will be sacrificed as it dies, which is one, just disgusting behavior. How absolutely evil do you really have to be? These primal fears are something different. Unfortunately though, thankfully, Pochita is just way too mindless to even understand what's going on. The Aging Devil is like, "Hey, I'll give you blood. Feel free to eat me and you'll be good to go. You'll not only be even more powerful, but you'll be able to fight Yoru and keep going." And Chainsaw Man is much more focused on Vamvaga and blood. And I think overall, what we've come to understand as an audience, I don't think he's actually looking for blood to regenerate. Because if that was the case, he would just start eating the Aging Devil. Pochita is an instinctual monster. So if what he wants is put in front of him, he's gonna do it. So I don't think blood specifically is what he's looking for. I think he may be looking for power. He may be looking for the blood devil. And what makes me say this is it brings me all the way back to part 1 of Chainsaw Man when Pochita fought Makima, the control devil, the first horseman of the apocalypse, Yoru's sister, who I know there have been plenty of debate in regards to who is stronger. Was Makima stronger because she was able to delete the 20% portion of the gun devil in like 5-10 seconds with all of the devils that she had at her disposal? Or is Yoru, now with the gun turret Statue of Liberty and her contract and the bang ability, even stronger and able to do more damage to Chainsaw Man? I mean, who's done more damage to Chainsaw Man is pretty clear, not considering that, you know, Chainsaw Man was reduced to a heart and then just literally recreated itself from a heart, but that was on its own accord, right? Makima was never able to just make Pochita unable to fight. So I think right now Yoru is winning in that aspect. And who came to Chainsaw Man's help? Who came to his aid when Makima was winning? Power did. The Blood Devil, President Blood Devil, I remind you, using the full power of their devil ability. And I have to say, with Pochita's one-track mind, it makes sense that he's like, hey, I was fighting a horseman before and power helped me, so I'm fighting a horseman now. Maybe I need power to come help me. And listen, I don't know how in the world we would get someone like Power back, because I know even if the Blood Devil was to come back from hell, it would be a different Blood Devil, right? They wouldn't have the same personality. They wouldn't have the same memories. It would most likely be a different Blood Devil entirely. But I will have to say that if we do in any way, shape, or form get Power back, I don't care. I'll love it, because Power was one of my favorite characters. Give me back Power. I'll do anything, please. I will eat you, aging devil, and sacrifice all those kids as long as I can have Power back. I know what I said. Now, while the aging devil tries to bring Pochita back to his senses, Asa is pleading with Yoru to stop. And like I said, Yoru is just taking an inch and turning it into a mile. She's doing her best to manipulate Asa any way that she can. And at a certain point, with the final lie, Asa, upon realization that Yoru is, again, the War Devil, one of these most powerful devils in Chainsaw Man series, and is honestly destroying a large portion of the world just to get what she wants, Asa feels fear. Asa feels worried. She feels scared. All that initial trust that has been built with almost over 80 chapters at this point, all of this relationship and connection dissipates. Asa regains control of her body in a snap, because for a moment, Asa is scared of war. Asa is scared of Yoru, and they no longer are able to coexist. Asa immediately reclaims her body, and Yoru understands this, but Yoru, in one last attempt at emotional manipulation to prove that at the end of the day, everything that has been created between these two was a means to justify an end, which was, it was all for Yoru to get to this point, to fight Chainsaw Man. At this point, fuck Asa. I don't need to be friends with you anymore. I need to control your body and get what I want. And sadly, in this last little moment of just deception, Yoru pretends to be sad. And Yoru looks at Asa and goes, You're scared of me, Asa? I can't believe that. Asa turns around, something that Yoru wasn't even able to do when they were having this inner discussion just chapters before. Asa turns to look at Yoru, and in that moment, that connection is regained, because Asa thinks, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong, but Asa was the one who was wrong, because almost instantly, as soon as Yoru regains control over the host body, she just immediately starts smiling, homicidal maniac laughing, and firing more bang shots out, because again, Asa is a means to justify the ends. Asa doesn't mean shit to a devil whose sole reason for living is war and violence. Now, after that giant fingertip gets sent towards the aging devil because Yoru is angry and thinks the aging devil is trying to steal her glory, the aging devil just puts its hand up and stops the giant finger bullet as if it was paper, as if it was literally nothing. Now, again, I'm not sure what the scaling is in regards to the aging devil, because Pochita was literally ripping off pieces of it like it was nothing. And we do know that Pochita was able to, not Pochita, but Chainsaw Man was able to do a decent fight against, you know, a portion of the falling devil. So where Chainsaw Man sits compared to Primal Fears is unknown. Where Yoru sits compared to Primal Fears is unknown, because again, the four horsemen of the apocalypse are a tier of their own. The aging devil sits there and goes, you know what, War, Chainsaw Man, you guys are way too immature for me. I cannot handle you. You guys are beneath me. And in that moment, as he turns the finger bullet to dust, the aging devil says, you know what, let's force you guys to grow up a little bit. So it's possible that in this short moment in the next chapter, we're going to see the aging devil turn the fuck up on Yoru and either decimate them completely, or Pochita is going to take the open opportunity and start eating the aging devil when the aging devil is distracted. This could go either way. All I know is if public safety gets what they want, it probably will not be a good thing to remove all aging from humanity. I really think that they're not thinking this through, because if everyone is stuck at the age they're at, I mean, not for nothing, if you're an old fart, sure, you won't die, but you're just going to be an old fart forever. The only people that win in this situation are the younger people. Might not even necessarily get rid of death. You might still be able to get stabbed and die just because you don't age forever. So as much as I don't want to see public safety get what they want, since they are clearly the evil ones in all of this situation here, just trying to take advantage of a terrible situation, I think more importantly, I'm interested to see how famine plays into all of this, because again, famine is just out of the picture right now. Famine has not shown themselves since this fight has begun. And I'm starting to think that not only is famine plotting, but I think there might be more lying in the background besides the aging devil, Yoru's need to turn Chainsaw Man into a weapon. And I'm wondering what that is. But all I know is I will be here every week to figure that out, and I will be here next chapter with you guys to see what is going on, because right now part 2 of Chainsaw Man is in the biggest climax it's ever had, and the fact that we've got a Primal Fear present, Pochita present, and the War Devil present, and all of them are playing different cards, and just seeing how Asa handles this, seeing what's going to happen to Denji. Overall, hoping and praying that we get power back. So Yoru, in my opinion, definitely bit off way more than she could chew, which is just her personality. You can't really fault her for it, right? Yoru was doing her best to take down Pochita to the point that she sacrificed those 300,000 fingers, using that to fire a cannon from the United States of America all the way over to Japan and causing so much death. Indirect civilian lives getting casually dusted and probably mangled beyond belief during this battle against Chainsaw Man. The aging devil does this cocky thing that I think is so funny, that Yoru's standing there holding the finger gun to him, and he's like, all right, I'll respond. Regardless of how crazy the aging world is, right before Yoru wakes up in the aging world, Asa has that dream again. It's very similar, honestly, to Denji's recurring dream of not opening the door. The dream for Denji meant a lot of different things. Not opening the door for Denji was important to Denji specifically because, for one, it was the repression of the memory of his father's unaliving. Traumatic, and especially at the young age that Denji was, and the terrible life that led him to due to his parents and everything like that. This dream became so much more than that. It became an actual premonition of Denji's future. Not opening the door and Pochita telling Denji not to open the door were references to the death of Aki and the death of Power. It was essentially Pochita trying to save Denji from the terrible future that we're in right now. Denji opens the door and Makima kills Power. Denji opens the door and he sees AK-47. The dream that Denji had basically solidified the ending of Chainsaw Man Part 1. Or at least the big traumatic climax for Denji that would create the character that we see today. And Asa also has a dream that she has been having repeatedly, over and over again. And we've seen it happen a lot of times not just when we first were introduced to it, but I believe we saw it happen after the Falling Devil, and there might have been one other time that it appeared. Asa's dream is essentially her running through this narrow alleyway, and as she continually runs down the alleyway, more and more and more dead chickens slowly appear, and to the point where she's trying to avoid them as best she can, but it gets to the point where the dead chickens are littered everywhere, to where she has to climb over them to continue her path down the alleyway. And then when she right is about to reach the end, she wakes up. Similar to Denji, right as Denji was about to open the door, he woke up. I think if we pay attention enough, we can not only tie this to Asa's backstory as a whole, but we can also tie this to Asa's future and even things that have slowly happened in Asa's present that we may have missed going forward. The start of Chainsaw Man Part 2 is Asa being very antisocial and displaying all of the traits that we know and love Asa for. Asa, and the thing about the human mind is it's very interesting. Asa had to live with the survivor's guilt after the Typhoon Devil. Asa, during the attack of the Typhoon Devil, tried to save a cat during the commotion, and as she tried to save the cat, she put herself in harm's way, causing her mom to push Asa out and get hit by a flown car and die. Now, because of this survivor's guilt, Asa has always internalized this, feeling that she not only made the wrong mistake and is the reason for her mother's death, but also because she feels like at this point now, she doesn't deserve friendship. She doesn't deserve love and care. That's why you see her, even in the beginning, she's very quick to reject and quick to push people away. It's what the mind does to make defense mechanisms. Instead of Asa feeling bad for herself that she doesn't have any friends, instead of Asa feeling bad for herself that she's too depressed to see the good in anything. You even see her, she's like, oh, our city's mayor has a DUI. The world sucks is basically Asa's introduction. And then you see her get one moment with Clucky, or Bucky, I'm sorry. How could I possibly forget Bucky? I'm not going to show the actual panel on screen. Instead, I'm just going to show a nice picture of Bucky as he wants us to remember him. Bucky remembers Asa Mitaka's name, something that she didn't even think anyone in her class did. And in that moment, she thinks, maybe I was wrong. Maybe, you know what? Like, maybe I can be accepted. Maybe I can be friends. Maybe I was just being down. And then in that moment, she trips and kills Bucky. Super sad. She feels like everyone hates her for it. She immediately regresses back into her antisocial behavior and blames herself. We do find out when she's attacked by the class president who made a contract with the Justice Devil because she was jealous of Asa. Asa thinks it's funny that when she was jealous of everyone else, someone was jealous of her. She also realizes that tripping over Bucky wasn't her fault because the class president admits she made her trip over Bucky. But what this all has to do and how this ties into the dream. The dream has a bunch of dead Buckys lying around everywhere. Starts off slow at first, but as she continually runs down the path, it gets more and more to the point that she's climbing over dead bodies. And in the moment, she didn't mean to kill Bucky. She didn't want to kill Bucky. She indirectly killed Bucky. Because Asa existed, because someone was jealous of Asa. The girl who, again, was a loner, didn't want anything to do with anybody, and did her best to stay clear of everyone around her because she hated everybody. That was her coping mechanism to the world. Someone still managed to become jealous of her, cause her to be the butt of Bucky's death, and also they're trying to kill her anyway because the teacher wanted to help her. Asa indirectly caused not only the deaths of her teacher and her class president in that moment, but the deaths of Bucky just because she existed, just because she was there. When do we see this dream again? Her encounter with the Falling Devil. Asa and Denji fight the Falling Devil. The Falling Devil causes mass catastrophe across the entire city, and multiple people die. Sure, they beat the Falling Devil, or the avatar of the Falling Devil, Denji and Asa, but why was the Falling Devil causing all of this mass murder? Fami specifically sent the Falling Devil to cook and eat Asa and Yoru. Well, no matter how you look at it, the Falling Devil caused all of this mayhem and all of this terribleness simply because Fami was searching for Asa. And again, think about it. Asa has this dream in the beginning when she's feeling bad about Bucky dying. She's feeling bad about all of the deaths that are on her hands that are not her fault. Her mom, up until this point now, multiple other people. Now we go back and she has that dream again after the falling devil, and she wakes up to see the falling devil's news of all the people that died and all the travesty that happened. Indirectly, again, Asa is causing all of these deaths, which, again, I remind you, in the dream, the chickens start slow at first, and then they start coming more and more and more all at once, until it's so big that she literally cannot avoid it and has to start climbing over all of the deaths. But it's interesting that of all times, right before getting transported to the mirror world, the aging world, she's having that same dream of running through the dead chickens. That crazy cannon that Yoru fired off, and the amount of death that was probably caused, again, indirectly by Asa. Asa letting Yoru fight Chainsaw Man, letting Yoru get what she wants, all in order to quote-unquote save Denji, which we all know that's cap. Indirectly, although you could argue this time it's more directly because Asa is outright the one allowing Yoru to do this. All of these deaths keep racking up around Asa, and it's all just because she existed. She didn't ask for any of this. Sure, she signed a contract with the War Devil, but that was when she died, and it was the only way for her to resurrect and come back. And to be fair, she didn't deserve to die in that moment. But it's scary to think of if it's getting so bad to the point Asa has to climb over them, and then we don't know what's happening afterwards. What is at the end of this alley? What is at the end of all this death? So after being transported to the mirror world, or the aging world, whatever you want to call it, we learn some very uncomfortable truths. One, that this primal fear was strong enough to immediately send Yoru into a pocket dimension, just being present and pointing a finger at them. Again, Yoru is a 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. They're by no means a weak devil. They're not at full power, sure, but the fact that the aging devil was able to do that, especially with the fact that Yoru has amassed the strength of gun and tank. Asa, of course, or I should say Yoru, wastes absolutely no time trying to kill Denji when she sees him, which, I mean, one, read the room, Yoru. It's kind of crazy that you would just go right to murder without even understanding what you just walked into. Like, what if Denji held the key to everything and Denji was the only way that she could leave? And Yoru just obliterated Denji's head in the first second of being there. And then she runs into this guy, of course, right? And another thing I want to focus on that just displays the amount of overwhelming power that these primal fears have. This guy was merely just looking at the mirror one day, thought he was a little bit old. His laugh lines had deepened, and he's like, oh man, if there was an aging devil, I would love to make a contract with him. And now he's been in here for 82 years. He's essentially immortal in the aging world, which makes sense. The fact that the aging world would stop all aging in their own pocket dimension. But I think it's also interesting, he also doesn't get hungry. He also doesn't get thirsty. And even though he's tried to take his own life, it has always ended in failure. He hasn't been able to die, which one of the biggest questions that we had when public safety was thinking of making this big deal with the aging devil. We've seen things like the mouth and the ear devil get devoured, and the effects were always way different than one would expect. It wasn't just that, like, all hearing went away. Like, Q-tips and everything still were around, but they were deemed as, like, art. And radio shows, podcasts, TV shows all went on, and people still knew how to talk and everything despite ears not existing. So, like, it's almost as if we enter a different parallel universe when the devils are eaten. We enter a different universe where things are still the same, but only a little bit different. Like, humanity still created radio shows and podcasts and everything. We probably just found different ways to interpret them. Sure, we probably still talked, and everyone was just a closed caption guy now, you know? Getting rid of aging, we were concerned that, what does this mean? If you're an old fart, like the one head of the public safety that wanted to make this deal, is he just going to be an old fart for the rest of his life and be decrepit? Are you just going to stop aging and be stuck at the age you're at, but you'll still be able to die? Now, it makes sense that you wouldn't hunger and you wouldn't get thirsty, because if literally time does not pass, now this may only be for the aging world, but I would imagine the aging world is what would happen to our world if we killed the aging devil. If time doesn't flow, or you're not aging, your body's literally not reproducing cells, moving on, or in the flow of time. Again, is the aging world what would happen? Because is everyone just going to go mad? It's believable. Think about it. If you're immortal, you can't die, you can't eat, you can't drink. And if this whole Marie thing, whatever the fuck it is, if this isn't just unique to him and going crazy, granted, being stuck in a pocket dimension and losing the life as you know it, and not understanding how you got there, what happened, if there's a way out or not, it makes sense why you'd go crazy. So maybe being in the real world, if everyone was like this, they wouldn't go crazy. But again, this could be an unintended side effect of losing aging, or just maybe the body itself, by not reproducing cells, or the mind is, we're most likely meant to perish, right? Like, as human beings, as living things, we are meant to meet our ends at some point. Not dying and being immortal is never a fun thing. You've read stories about it. Now, granted, this guy was only around for 82 years and his environment wasn't that great. But who's to say that if we're stuck in a routine, like, imagine, listen, we all work in our everyday lives. We all go to work. Some of you guys leave home for work. Some of you guys work at home. You guys all do stuff. Imagine we just had to do that routine every day of our lives forever. There was no getting older. There was no change. The time didn't pass. The same old fucks that were in power before will remain in power for the rest of their lives. The world will not change. The status quo will remain forever. Think about it. If nothing ages, nothing grows, nothing gets older, what changes? You'd be living the same day over and over and over again forever. Asa and Denji having a chance to discuss and actually talk would be very important. The only thing is Yoru would be able to intrude in that. The relationship between Asa and Yoru is like one of the last things that I want to focus on, because I'm interested to see how that goes going forward. These two characters who we saw not even too long ago confide in each other and trust each other and have this weird trust built between them. Yoru was even revealing the whole reason that she was here in the first place, why she wanted to kill Denji, that she might have to sacrifice her children to accomplish winning against Chainsaw Man. Whether, she was being fully transparent with Asa or not, I mean, that's not something that Yoru would have told Asa like 80 chapters ago. That relationship is definitely fractured right now. Maybe not completely broken off, but Asa can't trust Yoru anymore, I would hope. Asa literally watched Yoru not only cause chaos and death similar to the level of the Typhoon Devil that killed her mom, she watched Yoru absorb her two children like it was nothing and say children are their parents' property, something that definitely would trigger Asa, who again feels guilty over their own mother's death. And if that's true, if Asa's her mom's property, her own property got her mom killed. In the last couple chapters that Yoru has been able to go all out, let alone also, we forget that the whole essay happened with Denji that Asa is also extremely upset about. We can't even forget about that. That didn't even happen that long ago. Remember, this whole big fight broke out once they finally got to the sushi bar. And if Asa and Denji are able to communicate and Denji's able to actually open up to Asa for once, because Asa is honestly the only woman in Denji's life that not only will he be able to get along with, but would genuinely like him for him. And despite all of this craziness with Yoru, I feel like Asa and Denji are the most actually genuine, non-platonic friendship the two of them have had with each other, genuinely. The two of them have had in their lives. If they can come together and overcome not just war, but I mean, remember, after we get out of this pocket dimension, we're gonna have to deal with aging as well. Just as they overcame falling before, I think we might see the best of everything we have to come. And whether that ends with Yoru, unfortunately, sacrificing Denji and turning Denji into a weapon in order to defeat the main threat of everything, which may be the Death Devil, maybe Yoru herself, who knows? Honestly, I mean, Famine is still currently MIA, who is a major threat to not just us, but the world right now. This definitely changes the game, because we went from Yoru and Denji and Pochita fighting to how do we escape the aging world, which is an interesting parallel, in my opinion, to International Assassin arc and dealing with the Darkness Devil. Because we've seen very much so part 2 mirror part 1 very heavily. So last chapter, a lot of people were going back and forth as to who was the stronger devil faction, the Four Horsemen or the Primal Fears. And I think it's pretty clear that despite Yoru having all the confidence in the world to take on the aging devil, it's pretty clear with how easily she was trapped in the aging world, she might be biting off a little bit more than she can chew. And I think it becomes even more abundantly clear how powerless Yoru and Asa are while inside of this Primal Fear pocket dimension, with the fact that not only are all of their devil powers useless, if the devil powers were able to be used, Yoru would much more likely be willing to take her own life than be dealing with any of this nonsense. Showing not only how desperate Yoru is, but actually legitimately how screwed they might be. Because if reincarnating in hell and starting everything from scratch all over again is a better option than staying here, I mean, what more do you need me to say? As from the previous chapter, we learned not only is the aging world inescapable with no exit or any kind of plan or way to escape it, it is literally a world where not only does time not flow, but people inside of it are not able to get hungry, they're not able to get thirsty, even to the point that if they try to take their own lives, it will not work. Once you are stuck in here, this is your life for thousands, if not even longer amounts of years. We even learned that this chapter, people that have been here for thousands of years end up just literally becoming trees. Their bodies just becoming old, decrepit, and literally not moving or just becoming one with nature itself and losing all bodily functions. They're only able to moan, feel pain, which is unfortunate, and just, not be able to move at all until hopefully, from what the one crazy guy says, is that after becoming a tree, give it a couple more thousands of years and eventually your personality, your mental capacity, and everything about you will become one with the tree. It will become one with the grass, one with the water, one with the ecosystem of the aging world. And in that moment, when your personality and your mind slips away, you will reincarnate, supposedly, into the real world and be able to escape the aging, which I honestly am going to full on call cap. Ain't no way that a world as bleak as Chainsaw Man is gonna have this terrible nightmare fuel prison of an aging world, and you can just live through all of the mental anguish and terror and then just get to live your normal life afterwards. Absolutely not. There is no afterlife. You either end up in hell in the Chainsaw Man world after this aging world, or it's just pitch black for the rest of your life and you're just in a different prison of a different making. So whether you sit down and accept your fate in this aging world or fight it with everything that you possibly can, it all just seems utterly hopeless, and it makes sense why everyone in their mother just goes crazy in this world. There is never a light at the end of the tunnel. And the one thing that is interesting about the aging world that we also learned last chapter is that there has only been one known person to ever actually escape the aging world. And it's not through this dumb tree method that these motherfuckers are coping with. Now, a lot of people since the chapter came out have been theorizing night and day about who this devil hunter that escaped the aging world might be. And there's been two pretty decent theories that I'd be more than happy to discuss. One is Kishibe, Kishibe is the GOAT. Would never put that past him, especially when you look at him from before, how badass he looks. However, I don't think it's Kishibe as much as I would love to see him come back into the story and help Denji wherever he is. I hope he's doing well. I wish him the best. But I think the person that makes the most sense would be the devil hunter we know as Yoshida, who right now is like legitimately MIA entirely after the octopus devil got eaten. This man has been nothing but suspicious since he was introduced back in part 1, and he's only gotten even more suspect in part 2. Not only is it hard to trust that Yoshida has always been working in public safety's best interest, not that public safety's best interests are like good things to follow or anything like that, but it seems like he has always acted in a way that he's either one, calling the shots and is in a very high position in public safety now, or two, he has his own goals and simply acts on those while pretending to be a double agent for public safety. And he's just mysterious enough to make that whole aging world escape theory make sense. I mean, look at this man. He's beautiful. Doesn't age a day. After fighting Asa way back at her apartment, the event that literally started this big chain reaction and this big climax moment in part 2, as I can't tell if this aging world is going to start slowing down the pace again or not, because we really have been going
falls to the wall for the last couple of chapters with this big fight scene. But after fighting Asa in the apartment, Yoshida just poofed away. He disappeared and didn't show back up again until Black Chainsaw or Pochita showed up. And then Yoshida made an assault against Chainsaw Man with the Octopus Devil. Now, obviously, we know that the Octopus Devil did not last long. That one reduces the arsenal that Yoshida has of devils. Who knows if he has any more contracted with. But two, this man has poofed again. MIA, we don't know where he is. So this is the second time mid-fight Yoshida has just disappeared from the story. Now, is it possible that Fujimoto just had him die with the Octopus Devil? Chainsaw Man killed him, ate him, who knows? Definitely reasonable. However, a character like Yoshida, not that he's super important, but I would like him to at least die on screen if that's the case, which is why I'm putting more money on the fact that he's pulling some more shady stuff like he did back at Asa's apartment. But regardless of who that secret man is, whether they're going to be able to help us or we'll find out who that person is ever at all, it's just a red herring or something like that, the one thing that is definitely clear is that it is basically impossible for Asa, Yoru, or Denji to escape this hellhole that they're in. And obviously the idea of being trapped in here forever is a little bit mentally debilitating because Asa seems to be quickly losing her mind and descending into insanity. Not that it's unjustified. I mean, thinking about the idea of being stuck here for thousands of years until you become a tree or just who knows what else is definitely absolutely terrifying. And she just starts coping because she believes that this might be the same as the Eternity Devil. If she's able to maximize her weapon powers and turn the entire aging world into a weapon, then she should be able to escape. I mean, it's pretty clear that just based off of Yoru trying to end it all and go back to hell with the Gun Devil's power before, not only are these devil powers completely just snuffed out, unable to work, the fact that Denji returned to his normal form and is no longer Pochita also makes it pretty clear that whatever devil powers may be able to exist in the aging world, it is not whatever the powers that we have. Yoru just starts to berate the sleeping Denji and yell at him, blaming him for everything and that he always gets involved with these terrible and weird devils and just pulls people into the trouble with him. And Denji actually reveals to not be asleep at all. He's just silently been accepting the fate that he's been dealt because honestly, at this point, Denji feels like he deserves this. He feels like whatever punishment he gets, he deserves. In using his own words, he's an airheaded sex freak that doesn't understand social cues, and this is all literally his fault for dragging people constantly down to hell with him. And this self-loathing in Denji started very early on and began as this little climax arc started to happen, but now it's in full bloom. I mean, as far as he knows, Nayuta is dead. All of the dogs that he raised were killed in the fire. The Chainsaw Man Church has plunged basically all of Japan into chaos, and everything that happened in part one, no matter what Denji tries or how he tries to live his life, he's unable to live as what he deems as normal. But I hate to see Denji like this because sure, as much as you could ascribe to him being a bad person or him bringing other people down with him, none of this is his fault. He's never had a chance to live a normal life. He's never had a chance to understand what it means to be a regular boy. I mean, sure, he's a broken soul, beyond broken. He has no idea or semblance of what a normal life is. So that's why you see him constantly think about these things like they're normal. He tries to justify the essay that Yoru just gave to him by saying, oh, everyone gets hand jobs. I wonder if everyone around me has gotten jacked off, unwillingly before. It's probably normal. Any bad thing that happens to Denji just assumes is regular everyday life, and this just is not the case. He chases sex, he chases women, and he chases all of these very immature things because not only is he a teenager going through puberty, which is what most people are chasing in that age range that he's in, he doesn't have any of the boundaries or barriers of real life, of real society to hold him back when he goes off the rails. Denji is a child that has never had any kind of parental supervision or any role model figure to base his life off of. The only people that were above him that he grew up with were the Yakuza that were literally exploiting him for money, that would make him eat cigarettes for $1. Seeing Denji cry because he feels like all of this terribleness and chaos is his own fault and he always makes things happen this way, as opposed to blaming the insane cosmic forces and entities that always pull the strings on his life, Makima, public safety. He has never been free to be himself at any point in his life. No matter who tries to tell him that he's free, no one has ever let him be free. So in my eyes, no matter what bad things Denji has actually done or you want to hold him accountable for, I would look at this as a therapist would look at a really, deprived child. This isn't Denji's fault. He never had a chance to begin with. And even though Asa, the closest person to Denji at this point, didn't have as crazy of a child life. Sure, she was raised without parents, at least later in life after her mom died from the devil attack. We know that she was basically raised on her own and she's a social outcast herself. So while she can't specifically relate to Denji's struggle, she can sympathize, especially Yoru, who after watching Denji cry and just keep telling Asa that he's sorry for dragging her into this, she cannot help her feelings. She can't help herself from wanting to comfort Denji. She actually ends up kissing Denji, she out of her sheer love for him that she can't deny. Yoru holds all of Asa's most inner feelings and try as Asa might to shove them down and not admit that she likes Denji or has any feelings towards Denji. Yoru is the one that's confident enough to act on these feelings, whether she even realizes it or not. Which has me hold out hope that whether Yoru is the one that finally leaves Asa and Denji alone, or Asa is able to conquer Yoru and become the dominant personality, it gives me hope that Asa will be the woman that Denji needs, the woman that's able to, I hate to act like this very, crazy thing of like women need to, make men better and women shouldn't be responsible for men's trauma. But as sad as it is to say, Denji needs someone to help him. Denji needs someone to keep him on the right path. Denji needs someone that just keeps his head on his shoulders. And honestly, it's a tragedy of today's world, but there are a lot of men that without that level of comfort, without that level of love in their lives, they just become terrible people. And honestly, again, it's not women's responsibility to help these men, but at the same time, I won't deny that having a woman in their life that is able to not only give them a reason to live, but give them a reason to continue fighting and give them a reason to stay on the good path as opposed to stray from it with all of these different distractions, like Denji mentions, all of, going out and getting laid, going out and doing this instead of protecting Nayuta. Denji needs a pillar in his life that keeps him grounded, and Asa might just be that person. And with being in a world where time does not flow, aging does not happen, you can't get hungry, you can't get thirsty, this could potentially give these characters all of the time in the world they need to grow a genuine relationship, whether that be platonic or not. It is genuinely important for Denji to have someone that is not just taking advantage of him or using him for altruistic means. Sure, Nayuta was the closest thing Denji had to a real relationship, but even then, Nayuta was a devil. Nayuta would never give Denji that normal human connection that he needs to become a better human being, and I think Asa might just be that person. And again, we have got all the time in the world to focus on building that relationship.
I am genuinely happy to actually see Denji and Asa have a moment to finally work through their trauma here, even though it's just baby steps and we're just getting into the deep abyss that is the depression of both main characters of Chainsaw Man. Even though I know in the back of my mind, this is like exactly what the aging devil wanted by sending these two characters to the aging world, right? He wanted them to quote unquote mature so that way they'd be able to fulfill their end of the bargain for the contract that he's made with public safety in order to have Chainsaw Man eat him. I guess we'll just have to see what happens after this trauma bonding Asa and Denji are about to go through. Another thing that was also really satisfying to see was having Denji stick up for himself against Yoru's advances, because not for nothing, Denji has been through some of the worst span of like 40 chapters of manga I have seen in a hot minute. This is like one of the lowest points of Denji's life. He has been through actual hell. He starts off with the whole Chainsaw Man Church going through their big issue and announcing their contract with the Fire Devil, creating a bunch of different clones of Chainsaw Man as the Weapon Devils are just slaughtering innocent people in Chainsaw Man's name. I'm pretty sure that war is like still just like going on in the background. But on top of that, the arson that also was set to Denji's apartment with, I have to unfortunately remind you, all of his huskies and dogs, which like there was like 10, 11 of those guys, rest in peace. Yeah, he, like that is in and of itself, I would go postal just after that in a video game for YouTube, but you understand. All All of this is followed up with his defeat at the hands of the weapon devils. Even though he does technically beat them, he falls apart. He loses Nayuta in the grand scheme of all of this, and they have their own little spat. The betrayal of Diarrhea Woman, fuck her. He just gets transported to a hospital, wakes up, has no idea what's going on, and then he just gets dissected for like days on end, so that way limbs don't regenerate anymore. He gets boxed up and bagged up, and if it wasn't for Asa, Fami, and the other defectors of the Chainsaw Man Church all coming to save him, I mean, he would have been locked away forever. And then when they're trying to make him feel better, Yoru goes, "This is taking too long. You need to feel better right now." And this war devil assaults this man. "Man up. You need to rise up to the challenge and fight me now." Which is like, this man is already in more than the dumps, I would say. He's in lower than hell, the worst, the 9th layer. There's nothing left at this point. And on top of that, he still holds it together, and then he sees Nayuta's dead head, which again, who knows if it's actually Nayuta, if it's all fake. We have progressed way past this at this point, and we're not going to return to it for a while. So safe to say right now, Denji thinks she's dead. I'm going to assume she is because it's real to him, and that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, because he goes absolutely insane after this and regresses into his Black Chainsaw Man primal Pochita state and just goes all out. A lot of people in the community have been theorizing that the specific devils that Chainsaw Man ate were all related to traumas that Denji has been dealing with in his life, signaling to us again that Pochita is trying to work as like the PTSD devil and like block out everything that makes Denji's life not fun. Now, of course, Pochita is doing this for a good thing, but it's also not healthy to repress all of your memories, because he ate the mouth devil. There's multiple different reasons why the mouth devil could be traumatic for Denji. I mean, if you really think about it, I don't think this man has had a single genuine kiss in his entire life. The one time he thought it was genuine with Rize, it wasn't genuine. Every other time since, it's just been assault after manipulation after whatever. No one has actually loved Denji for him, and I think that's part of the reason why the mouth devil was one of the first devils to be consumed. We actually even see the culmination of that in this chapter when, as I referenced before, Denji pushes Yoru away as she keeps trying to force herself onto him, claiming that when he's upset or crying, he seems cute and it makes her want to, you know, jump on him. The problem is Denji has like went through nothing but trauma to sexualization, trauma to sexy. He's never even had a direct moment to process any of his guilt, any of his loss, his abandonment issues, anything that he's ever dealt with. His life has just been one crazy thing after the other, and he doesn't even have time. You know, you can't blame Denji for being a horny teenager that's going through puberty with raging hormones. Of course, anytime someone, even a woman, touches Denji, he's going to collapse and simp at the thought of it, especially with the trauma he has in regards to just abandonment and affection and comfortability in general, right? Being vulnerable with people. He's already got that going for him. He even says at this moment, he goes like, I can't even think about anything going on with this continually happening. So it makes sense why Pochita would just say, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna take away mouths for good. Would it make more sense to take away like the sex devil? I don't even want to know what that devil looks like, and I hope it stays in hell. The only moment of respite I feel like Denji's had in his life, especially in the series that we've seen on screen, is when he was just being a normal teenager with Nayuta and his pets. Sure, he was still Chainsaw Man, but he was fighting for him. He was fighting for what he believed. And I don't think Denji genuinely knows what he wants right now. What makes him the happiest is being free to pursue whatever he wants, being able to live what he deems as a normal life, but also being able to be a hero, that of being a Chainsaw Man, being the person that's able to save other people from devils and getting that validation. It's not the thrill of being Chainsaw Man that makes Denji upset. It's all of the emotional and controlling trauma that comes with being Chainsaw Man and all of the different forces that are surrounding him that don't let him be the way that he wants to be. But most importantly, besides being free, what Denji also wants is just someone to love him for him. And instead of being controlled or having someone get something out of him, just be around him because they want to be. Denji also ate the octopus devil, which is a symbolism to his fractured relationship with Yoshida, if you could even call it a relationship or a friendship at that point. Obviously, Yoshida has been standing in Denji's way of being happy this entire part, so it makes sense that he would say, "Fuck you, buddy." And then there's also the bitterness devil, which you could argue is a couple different things. I mean, most prominently, there is Rize and the coffee shop, and there's also that amazing puke kiss from Himeno. But most importantly, and this is the devil that Denji throws up at the end of this chapter, the snow devil. The snow devil, and just snow in general, is traumatic to Denji. It reminds him of his last best moment with his family, legitimately, with his sister Power and his brother Aki. The people that did love him for him and did want to be around Denji and want to spend time with him, not because they were getting anything out of him and not because they loved each other for who they were as people. And not only is this trauma traumatic for him in a way that it stun locks him, which we've already seen when he fought the falling devil, right? When he fought the falling devil and those memories came back, he almost lost his mind. He had to literally cut open his brain out of his mind to even continue fighting, because this is just one of the worst things that's ever happened to him. And I don't think he's ever processed this trauma. But now that we go into this flashback and with the snow coming back, Denji might be forced to face this trauma. And I'm wondering how this will affect him. Will he actually fulfill the aging devil's wants? And will Denji actually come out of this as a matured man, someone that is maybe not able to get over his trauma completely, but he's able to accept it and become the best version of himself? Because that's also a lot of what him and Asa talk about, because thankfully Asa directly punches Yoru and gets Yoru out of this situation, because she is not the one that's going to be able to help Denji here. Not only does she not understand common human etiquette and keeping her hands to herself, also is just the worst. She's like, you know, I lost people too, but I got over it. You can definitely do it. Let's go. Motivational speech. And that's just not what Denji needs right now. Denji needs to feel validated. He needs to feel like he's not alone in this world. And Asa is actually the one that's able to do it by her trauma in regards to the circumstances of her mom's death, how she feels guilty and has survivor's guilt specifically around her mom, knowing that if she never tripped, her mom wouldn't die. And when Denji asks how she gets over that, Asa says, how do you get over something like that? That's an important, I was going to say therapy, but an important thing to remind Denji of. It's not that he has to get over it and stop being upset. It's that he needs to move on in spite of these feelings and move forward to be better and hope that that doesn't happen for anyone else. Because what awakens Denji's resolve, which is what forces him to puke out the snow devil, I imagine is what's happening, is Asa reminding Denji that whether he knows it or not, the reason he loves to be Chainsaw Man is because being a hero to people makes you feel validated. And you can, not only that, you can save people having that same trauma that you went through. You can stop the cycle. You can end that loss from happening to other people and find that relationship and find that validation through it. There's going to be terrible actors all the way through, but it's those relationships that you're able to find through the diamonds in the rough are what make you stronger. And I think Asa and Denji might actually be able to have that kind of connection. Denji can be a hero. We've seen him do it. It's just his emotional state is holding him back. Same with Asa. Asa is finally taking charge right now and had the balls to punch Yoru and take control back of her body because Yoru was not handling the situation correctly. I would love to see both of them mature.
Kind of people that theorize about Chainsaw Man every week and after every chapter, honestly, I have to give you guys some kind of credit because you have to have some kind of telepathic connection to Fujimoto's mind. Like, there is no way that we get these theories right every single time without fail. One of us has to live in Fujimoto's walls or something, because this is crazy. The theory about why Pochita ate all of the different devils was proven correct, especially in this chapter. And not only that, but in this recent chapter, we also get somewhat of an awakening for Denji, as finally he may be someone that's able to accept the trauma that he's been dealt, accept the terrible deeds that have made him who he is, and make them into a better person. Still finding reasons to smile after all of that depression. So last chapter, picking up where we left off, Asa basically took control of her body because Yoru was doing no good whatsoever trying to convince Denji to cheer up. Her overconfidence and being like, don't don't worry, we'll just keep moving forward, just was not working. And what actually did break through Denji's wall and actually reach out to him and offer an olive branch was Asa Mitaka recounting the death of her mother and the survivor's guilt that has basically plagued her almost her entire life. There is literally no one closer to Denji right now that would be able to not only understand, but empathize with the sincere amount of loss that this man has really had to deal with throughout his entire life, not including any of the terrible gaslighting, manipulation, harassment, just a terrible life. Significantly larger than what Asa has gone through. However, the main theme and point that I think Asa and even Pochita is trying to get through to Denji is not only do these awful tragedies make you stronger and make you who you are as a person, you may feel like you're alone, but you have no idea who else is going through the struggle as well. When comparing things like trauma, you don't need a certain amount, or you don't need to have the same amount of trauma as someone else. Just the fact that someone who is dealing with awful things has someone alongside them that even somewhat understands, that's sometimes all it takes to move on. And apparently, as I mentioned before, this is also what Pochita wanted for Denji, because everyone's main theory was Denji was trying to, as he did in part 1 with the door, don't open the door, Denji, Pochita was trying to help Denji move on from the terrible things that are putting him in this awful depression. That was by eating the bitter devil, eating the snow devil. We find out that it wasn't so much to forget, but so that way in Denji's worst possible moment, Pochita could remind Denji of the terrible things that he's been through, but not just the terrible things, the good things as well. The snow devil, while reminding him how much he misses Aki and Power, also puts into his perspective how much he enjoyed spending time with them and how they left an impact on him going forward. Even the bitter devil and Rize, who we get confirmation on is the coffee place. Rize fucked Denji up, manipulated him, made him think that she was like him and she could empathize with him and she was his girlfriend, all to just throw that all away at the end and be like, I'm an assassin, I was trying to kill you, I'm gonna let you survive right now. There's a reason why there's the saying, it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all, because at the end of the day, as much as Rize can belittle and devalue the moments that she and Denji had, as much as they mean to Denji, that can never be taken away from him. Part 1 of Chainsaw Man truly shaped Denji into the man he has become in part 2. I would say that this reminding of Denji's trauma and the pushing past this to continue living and continue finding reasons to smile isn't even a new development in Denji's character. To be completely honest, it seems like throughout part 2 and just how terrible things have been since the Chainsaw Man Church, Primal Fear of Falling showed up, nothing has been going well, and honestly, Denji has genuinely regressed. Even more intense trauma like the death of all of his dogs, the burning down of his apartment, and even the death of Nayuta, the child that Denji was responsible for and raising like a little sister, combined with the innate trauma of losing his parents in the awful way that they left him, and then as well being a lapdog for the Yakuza and getting paid $1 to eat cigarette butts, Denji has always found a way to carry on. And even though we may just have gotten direct confirmation that the Nayuta that was shown in the sushi shop with Barum actually was Nayuta, or at the very least, Denji thinks it's Nayuta and is fully accepted Nayuta's death. However, Denji's belief isn't direct confirmation from Fujimoto. He could be an unreliable narrator for all that we know. So everybody that's holding out hope that Nayuta isn't dead and it was just a full replica of her head because it was specifically missing the little dot mole that is on her face, well, god damn it, we were right about the Pochita thing, so I'm gonna have to hope and pray that you guys are correct about Nayuta's well-being as well. In this stationary moment of terribleness and depression, self-loathing, Denji is drowning in the aging world. He jumps into a lake because of the bitter taste and needs water, and as he's slowly drifting under, he realizes after reliving all of these traumatic events that no matter what Denji does or how hard Denji tries, he always ends up being alone. Whether that be because the people leave him voluntarily, they die in awful circumstances, Denji can't seem to catch a break. However, it's in this exact moment where Denji finds out that these thoughts aren't correct. He's not right. He's really not. Because at the end of the day, even though they're not physically there by Denji's side, we all know for a fact Pochita has always been there for Denji, doing his best to keep the door closed, doing his best to make sure Denji fulfills all of his dreams. And even when he does take over and become the Black Chainsaw Man, the executioner of hell, this insanely lethal threat to even the Four Horsemen or primal fears, is out looking for girls and out looking for blood and out trying his best to fulfill Denji's dreams even when he's in charge. The relationship between Denji and Pochita means more to Pochita than however long Pochita has survived in hell and been this hero executioner that is responsible for eating insanely powerful devils. And if Denji was able to be there for someone like Pochita, who was always too strong to ever receive any kind of care or affection from anyone, then god damn it, Denji can pick himself up by his bootstraps, accept himself as he is, and move on from this trauma and become a better person irregardless. The Snow Devil, the Bitter Devil, and every terrible, unique circumstance that has brought and pushed Denji to the brink has never actually killed him. It has never broken him down to where he can't get back up again. None of these tragedies kept Denji from being his best self. Even part 1, everything with Makima, losing power, losing Aki, his whole life turning upside down, wasn't even enough to stop Denji. What happened? He adopted Nayuta from Kishibe. He returned to high school and became a high school student, lived a second life as the Chainsaw Man hero to save the world from devils. So Pochita is making Denji relive this trauma, not because he wants him to be sad or forget this trauma or never think about it again, but he wants to remind Denji that he's been through much worse before, and his life always ends up coming out a little bit better as long as Denji sees it through to the end. And now, not only is Pochita by his side, but as far as we know, until Yoru messes things up again, he's got Asa Mitaka, this girl that can actually empathize, understand Denji, and actually for once doesn't have intentions of fucking him over. Denji might actually be the strongest and in the best place he's ever been. It's time to stop sobbing, it's time to stop feeling bad for oneself and carry on. Because as Denji admits, you know what? That sushi was pretty good. Despite the fact that I just got harassed earlier, I was able to pop a boner. In the most Denji-like fashion, he rises from the ashes. And I have to say, this is why we love Denji and will never stop loving Denji. Protect him at all costs. I love him. Good things in life are always worth fighting for. After the loss of Rize, Denji found comfort in people like Power and Aki. After the loss of Aki and Power, Denji found comfort in being Nayuta's older brother and raising 10, 11 huskies all in the same house. I know it smells in that apartment. But even after the loss of Nayuta, Pochita's always waiting there. But now, he might even move on to something better. I feel like anyone can relate to Denji's moment right here where he's like, you know what? Life isn't that bad. I do have a reason to live. As long as there's still food and girls around, Denji's got a reason to live. Especially with his dog beside him and his new friend. And honestly, this isn't even that big of a change or like massive development in Denji's character. As I mentioned before, if anything, since public safety and the Chainsaw Man shirts got involved in Denji's ordinary life, he has regressed to even a worse state that he was in part 1 after Aki and Power died and Makima was basically just using him as a lapdog. He's just now getting back to where he was before, and now that he's at this moment, his ceiling has raised and he can grow and mature, which, as we mentioned last time, is almost exactly what the aging devil wanted. So it's unclear if they do get out of the situation, if they're going to have to fight the aging devil and kill him, or they're going to fulfill the aging devil's contract with public safety and advance humanity. I'm going to have to hope that it's not that way because I think aging is important, and I would hate to see what the world looks like without aging. And also, it would just bring me so much joy to watch Diarrhea Woman fail. Fuck her. And like I said, the character development is coming after, because after coming to his senses, Denji realizes that, wait a minute, Asa, you said that there are no devil powers here, but I was just able to hurl up 2 huge devils that had no right fitting in my stomach. And I'm not from some Cartoon Network Toon Force. My stomach should be relatively normal size. So Denji theorizes that most likely Pochita is still in the real world and only Denji was sent to the aging world, meaning that Pochita's stomach with all of the crazy, insane devils that he just ate is still in the real world and is somehow connected to Denji despite him being in this pocket dimension, which means Denji has a plan. And, you know, normally Denji's not big-brained, but the fact that he was able to confidently not only come up with a plan, but say to Asa that, you know what, it's my turn to save us. Not only is Denji back, baby, but he's better than ever. I am so happy to see Denji back on his own 2 feet, making his own decisions, ready to fight back. Chainsaw Man is revving up, raving, and back in the fucking action, baby. So I have literally no idea what Denji is hoping to accomplish by running around in circles. To be fair, whenever I see him get like this, I have to be honest. This man's confidence is contagious. I truly, wholeheartedly believe he's gonna be able to accomplish whatever he sets his mind to, especially after last chapter's revelation, which forced Denji to relive some of his most bittersweet moments in order to awaken his true self. A lot of the devils that Pochita devoured while in the real world were directly related to Denji's trauma. For example, by eating the snow devil, Denji was forced to remember the painful loss of his true family members Power and Aki, as well as the last time they all had a really great moment together, which was the Hayakawa grave back in winter. Denji also threw up the bitter devil, a reminder of his manipulative love with Rize and how she left him on the beach alone. But after the support from Asa, who has her own survivor's guilt and is able to relate to Denji on a lot of these fronts, including the realization that Pochita will never leave Denji's side no matter what happens, Denji has finally found new resolve in his life, fully accepting the truth that what doesn't kill you actually does make you stronger. You have to accept your shadow, your dark side, in order to become whole. You can't just be anything but light. You will always cast a shadow. And to be fair, using the original analogy, Denji has had a lot of shit trying to kill him. Denji claims to have some kind of plan that will allow him and Asa to escape the aging world. Again, I have no idea what that may be, but I know it has everything to do with the connection between Denji in the aging world and Pochita, who was left behind in the real world. As long as that tether is tied, Denji and Pochita do have some kind of line between dimensions. This is the exact reason why Denji, despite being in human form and definitely not having the stomach to hold all of these devil heads, was easily able to regurgitate things that the devil Pochita clearly ate. We have to all assume that this little loophole is exactly what Denji is using to try and escape. In fact, even the aging devil shows up and goes, hey, you probably realized how tough it is gonna be to leave. I can let you leave, but I need you to connect with Pochita in the real world and have him eat me, which shows that even the aging devil is relying on this connection between these two entities. Because obviously we already know that by waking up Pochita in the real world and having him eat the aging devil, they're going to be sacrificing plenty of children, probably in the thousands, in order for public safety and aging devil to fulfill their contract and remove the trait of aging from humanity as of itself. But according to Denji, Pochita isn't listening to aging devil because he's just incapable of comprehending anything. Pochita isn't listening to the aging devil because Chainsaw Man is a hero. Heroes don't sacrifice children like that. It's not just the human side of Denji that's keeping Chainsaw Man from devouring and sacrificing all of those kids. It's Pochita, who has learned and gained so many new instincts and emotions from being around Denji for so long that Pochita doesn't need to do fucked up shit like that in order to grow and defeat their enemies, because he knows that if Pochita isn't strong enough to get the strength and defeat the primal fear, then his human side Denji, whatever he's going to accomplish in the aging world, will find that strength and they will beat the devil together. The once known executioner of hell has become soft-hearted. We all know all he wanted in part 1 was just a hug, and he couldn't get it. So part 2 Denji is not gonna be sacrificing any kids today. Part 1 Denji might have done so, but part 2 Denji, absolutely not. Too much character development. The aging devil just assumes that Denji's defiance is pointless. He even tries to taunt Denji about Nayuta's death and the amount of loss that he's gone through, because not for nothing, Denji's quick turnaround of optimism and happiness is definitely a little weird. So the aging devil tries to break the boy down by just jabbing into freshly closed wounds. But not even this is enough to knock the confidence that Denji has gained back. He says that no matter how many of his families get killed, he'll just make new ones, which is like a very morbid thing to think about, but sure, if that's one way you want to look at this lesson, Denji, I'm all for it. Whatever Denji believes is the reason he's running around this lake, he truly, wholeheartedly believes that this is the escape plan that he's put all his eggs in the basket for. And the fact that he's willing to lose more people and continue fighting reveals Denji's new attitude, and that he has now a willingness to accept the tragedy that his life brings to him. All he can keep doing is moving forward and try his best to build that happiness that he wants. The world's gonna try to beat you down regardless, but it's the people that keep getting back up that are strong. Denji's like that one meme of the guy underground digging for diamonds and he's about to give up, but Denji isn't giving up anytime soon. He's been shoveling shit for so long, there's gotta be some treasure behind it. Which definitely throws a wrench in the Aging Devil's plans, who was hoping that this trip to the aging world would basically break down Denji and Asa enough to strip them of their autonomy and have them listen to whatever the Aging Devil wanted from them to escape. With them potentially becoming as insane as this tree guy shouting "Mri" all day, yeah, I probably would take the first ticket out of here as well. However, they're not going to be giving in to the Aging Devil's desires anytime soon. The exact opposite has occurred, if anything. The Aging Devil tries to deny the fact that he's almost guaranteed lost at this point and his trick has failed, and he writes Denji off as being even stupider than Pochita. But despite that, me and the rest of the audience have no idea what Denji's doing running around this circle. I'm sure the Aging Devil has even less of an idea, but again, after 200 something chapters, I am inclined to believe the hero Chainsaw Man. If Denji says the Aging Devil is the stupid one for not understanding the escape plan, then god damn it, he is the stupid one. I saw what happened last time Denji made a perpetual motion machine, and that Eternity Devil was left crying and begging for death by the end of it. So I am more than happy and excited to see how Denji and Pochita get themselves out of this situation. Frankly, just like they've gotten out of every single one they've been put in before this. Sure, we still have crazy Yoru to deal with after this, and you know what? The Aging Devil might not have been a problem for Pochita, but if we do revert back to Denji form, it might be a little bit stronger of an opponent. Say what you will about removing aging from the world, removing war from the world would probably just be a net good. So whatever ends up happening in this big major climax that's happening in part 2, all I'm hoping for is that Denji can keep this happiness going forward, because this is honestly the most joy I've seen spark from this man since part 2 began. I'm also interested to see how Asa is going to handle Denji's new development and if she's going to learn anything new after escaping this aging world with him. Denji feeling the need to run around the aging world non-stop and make himself hungry instead of just locking in and eating the human trees regardless of what state his stomach is in, is honestly the most Denji thing I've heard all day. And that's how I know our king is back, because he is right back jumping into the shenanigans like he never missed a beat. And now that Denji is back in action, he's taking steps to return both him and Asa to the real world. His plan entails running around until he makes himself hungry, like I just mentioned, and then devouring those human trees to give Pochita in the real world stamina. If you remember from the last couple of chapters, after Denji threw up the Snow Devil and the Bitter Devil, he was able to piece together that despite his real human body being in this pocket dimension, Pochita, the Black Chainsaw Man, and Denji's real organs, stomach, and everything else are all still in the real world. So the fact that Denji was able to hurl up devils that Pochita ate in the real world means that despite being in two separate planes of reality, what Denji shoves in his mouth is connected to Pochita and vice versa. So because of that, anything that Denji does eat is going to return to Pochita. And considering that these trees that litter the entire aging world, as the Aging Devil fully confirms, are not just basic trees with bark and fiber, they are all human beings. And by eating blood, we already know what happens to devils, especially the Executioner of Hell. That blood will be more than enough to revive and heal Pochita. We also get a little bit more background and understanding of what the Aging Devil is hoping to accomplish with this whole scheme. Even though they are basically sacrificing their life and being willing to be devoured to evolve humanity, it turns out this is what they've been striving for their whole lives, which is very interesting to me. The Aging Devil created this aging world, this pocket dimension, in order to achieve that dream of human evolution far before it decided on ending its own life. It truly wants to maximize human potential and see what humans can come up with and the knowledge that they're able to stumble upon 2,000 years after meditating and trying to understand the secrets of the world. However, according to him, this just isn't possible. Even if you avoid death for humans, humans become parts of nature. After 2,000 years and after developing their minds and reaching a certain thought process, they all become trees. It is inevitable, according to the Aging Devil. And based off of how many trees are in this world, I'm gonna have to say he's tried this a couple times, so I think I'm gonna believe what he's saying. Apparently, it's human nature itself, a flaw in the design of all living beings, that after reaching a certain level of enlightenment, we all just become trees. Again, just based off of Denji shoving an axe into one and watching it bleed and all of their entrails come out, it's safe to say that you legitimately just twist, contort, and become a tree. So, Buddha, love you, dog, but if this is what enlightenment is getting me, I don't know if this is what I signed up for. This was never enough for the aging devil, though, as the tree is basically a hard stop, an obstacle in the way of what he's looking to achieve. The aging devil wants to see what happens to people after they become the tree, after they reach that level of thought process that makes them even become a tree in the first place. So he wants to understand why and what this forbidden knowledge is that causes this, but also what comes afterwards. If the aging devil is willing to sacrifice themselves, remove aging as a whole, and skip that whole tree thing, then it's possible we all might just be able to learn what is after that, what comes after enlightenment. Even if it comes at the cost of the aging devil's life itself, it will seek out that forbidden knowledge and allow life forms to reach their ultimate being. And it's interesting that the primal devils that we've met so far have all had such radically different views on just reality as a whole. Like the darkness devil was this evil, horrifying force that was just dealing death wherever it went. Whereas we learned the last primal fear was the falling devil, and they were completely subservient to the denizens of hell despite their overall power level. All they wanted to do was make good dishes and feed denizens of hell with great food. And now we have the aging devil, who is another devil that has lived since the dawn of time. Its main goal is just to evolve humanity to its furthest peak. And it's interesting that these beings that are meant to be amalgamations of the fear and horror of the most primal things that humanity is scared of end up having these either peaceful or very, honorable ideals. So honorable, in fact, that it's something that the higher ups in public safety are more than willing to accept. Some of them are even willing to champion this idea, believing that they themselves are truly doing the best for humanity and evolving it and achieving things that no human in history has ever been able to do before by getting rid of the aging devil and seeing again what comes past this tree stage. To be completely honest with you, and the aging devil would probably discount me because who am I, a man, I'm only 28, but I think this is a pretty awful idea. I agree with Denji and Asa. This doesn't seem that great because not for nothing, removing aging instead of removing death as a whole or removing other concepts means that however old you are, you're just gonna stay that way forever. So if you're old and inept and just disabled, that you're gonna remain old and inept forever. There's no chances of you dying. I mean, I guess we can work forever to try and stop things like that from happening, but still, the only people that are gonna thrive, at least in the beginning of this ageless world, are the people that are young, the youth. And even then, immortality does get kind of old. I don't care who you are, what you say, nobody wants to live forever. You might think you want to, but after reliving the same day, night, year, decade, century, over and in and over and out, it creates absolute madness. The exact reason why people who do live forever become this tree thing, probably, because it's better than being stuck with your maddening thoughts and just living the worst days. You just become stagnant and you just stop thinking and you just stop being, you just are. After living 2,000 years, I can understand why that might be the better alternative. Maybe we were never meant to go past the tree, god damn it. Also, you're telling me you want all these old farts that run the world staying there in their current positions forever? Never leaving or just never having newer people? These old farts truly think they're gonna lead the world into the right direction after aging is gone, but what stopped these assholes from achieving all of these great deeds while they were alive, or at least doing the best for the world with the time that they had? I don't know about you, but I'm a fan of the old and out of touch being ushered out of important roles of society after they have paid their price, paid their dues, and if anything, are just becoming liabilities. We can't let people just stay in power forever. There's a reason why we don't let that happen. We need to progress as a world, and sometimes once you hit a certain age, you just stop progressing. Maybe not all the time, not all 100% of people stop, but 9 times out of 10, once you hit a certain age, you know enough people, you know enough things, and you don't want to know anything else. else. Not the type of people I want living and running the countries forever. Which is why I say, again, despite Denji being under 20, his passion and the lessons that he's learned in his short life, just reading through part 1 and part 2 alone, I think are going to outnumber all of the complacent and stagnant public safety higher-ups. And even those trees that are trapped in the aging world. Denji, if anything, his trauma age is like 105. So I trust Denji. If he's confident in the world that he chooses to create, I'm following right behind him, because he may be the only person that will ever be able to find a way out of the aging world. Apparently there was one other person before this, we still don't know who, but by using an axe that Asa helped him create out of the Snow Devil's tooth, Denji rips into one of those human trees, starts eating their blood and guts, and instantly the sustenance is transferred right to Pochita in the real realm. After reigniting that chainsaw rev, Pochita gets right back up, ready to go and fight public safety and the aging devil in the real world. Will killing the aging devil free all of the people from the aging world, or will they all just be doomed forever in this void of life? Who knows? All I know is Pochita is on his way to public safety to fuck them up and save Denji and Asa, and I am excited to see what that entails, because we've already seen Pochita work public safety to the bone, and literally, even though some of the devils that they lost were intentional, they were trying to test what Pochita was doing, I think it's very clear that Pochita overpowers everything that public safety has to offer, unless somehow, some way, another faction interrupts what the hell is going on. We still don't know where Fami is. And hell, at the end of the day, we know that this is all just a penultimate climax to the Death Devil arriving in the real world. Nostradamus' prophecy is about to come true. All I know is I will be here to the end. Thank you all very, very much for watching to this end of the video. If you made it this far, hit that like button if you enjoyed, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future Chainsaw Man content. I believe we are going into a 2-week break. Fujimoto pumped out 4 chapters in a row, which is unheard of recently, so he definitely deserves that break, and I'm excited to see what he puts in the oven to cook over this hiatus. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and if you think that Denji's plan is going to work. Also, tell me who you think that one person is that escaped the aging world before this. Is it Yoshida, that fucking perfect, flawless, beautiful skin man, or is it someone else like Kishipe? I've heard so many different stories, and how do you think this arc is gonna end is gonna be my biggest question.
A couple of chapters ago, I was just kidding, about Denji recreating the perpetual motion machine that he made way back in his early days of being a devil hunter against the Eternity Devil. It seems like this really is the case, because Pochita, who while up against a primal fear with multiple human contracts to make use of, is at threat of dying multiple times in this battle, with the fact that the aging devil has littered his entire pocket dimension with ignorant humans that make unwitting contracts. Again, we saw the guy who just happened to walk by a mirror and screwed himself for life, unfortunately. It would take years before Denji somehow devoured all of the trees in this space. The aging devil has made his own demise, and that's beautiful. Now that Denji and Pochita's stomachs are intertwined, regardless of the fact that they're on separate planes of reality, as long as Denji keeps devouring tree people, then Pochita's just gonna keep reviving and regenerating all of the wounds that he gets while fighting to reach public safety. It really does make sense now why Denji would work so hard to run a marathon and also just throw up everything he has in his stomach. He really did need all of that room inside of his stomach for the amount of tree person he's about to eat going forward. And in the real world, meanwhile, Pochita is just rocketing himself full DBZ speed in through the air and across the city so fast that apparently he's just gonna reach public safety headquarters in a single minute, which is just insane how quick this man goes at full power. And despite the aging devil being a full-on primal fear, one of the most powerful beings in the entire series, the aging devil fears that if Pochita actually does make it to headquarters, Chainsaw Man is surely going to kill him. Now that Denji is aware of Aging's plan, Pochita most likely isn't going to be eating him either. Considering Pochita attacks and destroys the surrounding environment without discrimination whenever he's let loose and in a big fight, probably also means that everyone in public safety is probably going to die, as they rightfully should in regards to everything going on. Aging Devil decides that hey, you're all gonna die if Chainsaw Man comes here. Let me use you guys as loyal sacrifices to up my power level and fight against Chainsaw Man. And Fumiko, resident diarrhea woman traitor, is the first to step up for a contract. The aging devil strips them of their nails first, then their livers, and then their eyes. As the aging devil absorbs all of this power, he's able to use it to psychically attack Pochita from afar. These attacks seem to reflect the aging devil's previous mirror abilities that he showed, where he can just punch through a mirror or just reflect attacks through a mirror wherever he wants and just warp it to that location. By taking very specific and horrendously torturous pieces of these humans, the aging devil is able to reflect his strength anywhere and also just keeps defeating Pochita every time and ripping him into pieces every time he gets back up. The problem is, Pochita just keeps getting back up. While Pochita and Denji have endless trees, I'm talking thousands upon thousands, it would take years to go through all of this. The aging devil has like 5 public safety agents here and maybe a couple more if they want to step up to the plate. The point is a lot less, finite. And at first, all these agents were more than willing to offer their bodies to the cause because Aging Devil claimed that he was going to keep their bodies safe from Chainsaw Man. However, the classic deal with a devil kind of thing, the kinds of organs that the Aging Devil steals from them, and the overall damage that he does to their bodies in the long run are most likely going to result in them dying anyway. Or at the very least, if they did survive, it would be a sufferable existence for that, by the way, eternity that they're fighting for. Because public safety really does believe that by eliminating the aspect of aging as a whole from the world, they're going to be able to overcome this current Death Devil prophecy. Chainsaw Man Church's appearance and the War Devil's assault on the country, seeing those as only preludes to what could possibly get worse, I don't blame them for that. With how weird we've seen the universe react to the actual complete wipe of a devil from existence, such as when we saw the ear get removed, the eyes get removed, people don't even remember the Nazis anymore, the removal of aging still has yet to bear any real fruit in my eye. And if we're supposed to go off of the aging world as a concept of what no age would look like, I've got a couple notes. Everyone in the aging world has rightfully lost their fucking marbles or started growing branches and become outright tree people. And while I appreciate the symbolism of, the Chainsaw Devil being parallel to humans, whose final evolution turns them into the very thing a chainsaw would cut down, respectfully, that is not a great defense against the current all-out chaos we're currently going through. And you want to talk about the Chainsaw Man Church, we still don't know Famine's full power. You could say that, oh, she just keeps small devils and hides. The Falling Devil was just one servant. How many other primal devils does she have? And if Makima is crazy strong, if Yoru is the higher sister, Famine is the step between Yoru and death. I mean, Yoru has almost cleared out the entire city of Tokyo, if not starting to reach the entire country, is firing full-on finger guns from the United States monument halfway across the world. What could be worse than this? I would also be scared to see it. But again, just because aging does not exist does not mean death is impossible for humanity. If anything, it just might make people start wishing for death more. At a certain point, I think a good 99% of the trees you find over in the aging world would much rather take death over whatever the fuck the existence they're having right now. Public safety might just be leading themselves down the very exact path that is going to bring and call down the Death Devil, which is honestly the most fitting thing that happens in any kind of story that revolves around a prophecy. It's just the common old trope. Man often finds himself walking right smack dab into his destiny on the road to avoid it. Odds are they have plans to make Chainsaw Man eat more devils than the Aging Devil, because I'm sure that's what people are gonna say. This isn't the only sacrifice that public safety is looking to make. I get it. I understand. They're trying to take things even further after the Aging Devil is just the start. The dark path that they're walking down down, more than likely is just going to end up causing way more harm than good. We should just look at the sorry state that Fumiko and her fellow agents that made a contract with aging. That's all I really need to see. But it might just be all for naught anyway, because despite how hard aging tried, he just could not stop the perpetual motion machine. Every step of the way, Pochita is recovering and repairing his body to just continue driving right to public safety headquarters. And at that final turn, when Pochita can just barely keep going and Denji's stomach is full of tree guts, Pochita hits that Hail Mary, stabbing himself in the chest similar to what he did in part 1 when Makima blew him all the way into outer space. Pochita grabs onto his heart and whips it full speed at the aging devil, leaving behind that old body and planning to regenerate around the heart and just speed his way all the way to aging. Will this be a one-chapter battle and the threat of the aging devil is just over? We have spent a lot of time with him. Or does public safety have some kind of other resident primal fear or some kind of final resort trump card up their sleeves? They really don't seem like the type to just give up, even though they have leveled down a little bit in part 2. My question is, let's say this after this fight, what comes next? If the aging devil is killed, will the aging world just disappear? Denji and Asa just fade back into reality? Obviously that's the most sound way to continue the story, but what happens if they get stuck in that world? And even less game theory, what happens in the world where Chainsaw Man destroys public safety entirely and there's no professional devil hunters left, or at least, an organization that binds them all together? With the primary organization responsible for keeping devils off the streets gone, is that not fulfilling the prophecy of a world won by devils? On top of that, we still have the Chainsaw Man Church running amok, and regardless of the state of some of the prior weapon devils like the Katana, Whip, and Quan Chi, Yoru especially is still gonna have a bone to pick with Denji after all of this is said and done, so that's still a problem we have to deal with. The age of devils grows ever closer, no matter how far away it is. With how much chaos is ensuing all throughout Japan, and potentially the entire world now that Yoru has pulled multiple different countries into the problem with the manipulation of the gun and tank devils, we are definitely in for a nice flow of solid chapters, and honestly, Part 2 feels like it's slowly approaching its climax. I don't know how many more chapters we have, but it's possible that Part 2 may cap off with the arrival of the Age of Devils, the arrival of death, and maybe we get a Part 3 of Chainsaw Man. I wonder if Fujimoto would keep going for that.
Pochita and Denji working together to take down a devil is a team up I never realized I wanted, but it feels so satisfying to see. Even though you could argue they are on two separate planes of reality right now, the fact that they are telepathically connected and just participating in the fight in their own ways is just beautiful to me. Especially when we think back to part 1 and how Pochita was this being that was so powerful and so strong, he was never able to really create an emotional connection with someone, not even be able to share affection, like give someone a hug or get one in return. So the amount of trust that this executioner of hell has slowly formed in this half-witted, horny-ass high schooler is just beautiful to me. And vice versa, the kid that barely had any relationship with his parents before they died, was raised by a neglectful and abusive group of Yakuza members, even after that, getting betrayed by almost every single person around him, and the people that didn't betray him all died. The fact that Denji can always come back to and find comfort in this supremely powerful devil that even the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse want to stop, it's always good knowing that no matter what happens, Pochita will be here with Denji. And while that is a very obvious thing that was brought to our attention the last couple of chapters, this lesson we already know is what picked Denji up and reinvigorated him to continue the fight. But I really want to focus on is just the symbolism of their teamwork really shines through brighter than the dialogue we've had in the recent couple of chapters ever could. By seeing these two characters really do their best in their own way to take on the aging devil together, honestly, if you really think about it, the crazed man calling Denji a devil makes sense. Because the only people that have done the most damage to Denji, at least the most malicious and cold, calculating malice are human beings. Mankind, as we know, can sometimes match and even exceed the evil of the devils that the world fears. So when the crazy man in the aging world does compare Denji to a devil, it might be the most apt comparison. The crazy man claims that Denji is just so young, under 20, he couldn't possibly understand what all of these millennia-old trees have been through. By trying to escape for thousands of years and eventually unlocking the second stage of man's evolution, he claims these trees have reached the truth, and Denji is taking that away from them. By slaughtering and eating these trees, Denji's disrupting thousands of years of enlightenment and meditation. And as someone that, again, hasn't even hit the age of 20, Denji can't possibly understand what these people have been through to get here. However, Denji immediately counters this line of thinking with his usual big-brained personality, saying that the trees should just be thankful because Denji is appreciative of the sustenance they are giving him, and he's eating them with gusto or passion. It's all for a good cause. Denji believes, and how he justifies it is, you know what, these trees would probably forgive me and want this if they weren't trees and were capable of forgiveness. And to be fair, I kind of agree with Denji here. Regardless of this tree form being the many lunatics who have tried to escape the inevitability of the aging world, at the end of the day, these trees, these people have remained stagnant this whole time, to the point that they're not even moving, breathing, or maybe not even coherent at this moment. Without age, without things like change, people don't grow. It could even be argued that these people became trees not because they reached enlightenment, but because their bodies as people and their minds devolved. They lost pieces of their humanity until they became something else entirely. And sure, plenty of religions would probably argue that this is the correct path to spirituality and eternal life and greatness. In my opinion, we should never strive for perfection. We should strive for progress, because progress continues on forever. Perfection is the end. Perfection is the lack of pursuit, the absence of growth. Perfection, in my opinion, is lonely. It's boring, and it will always and forever be the same as it was before. By eating these tree people and changing them into energy for Pochita and Denji to fight against aging, this is honestly the most importance any of these trees have probably had in millennia to really any event or situation. These trees are stuck here. They can never escape. But if Denji can use them to make his own escape, then that at least gives them some actual meaning. It might not be for them, but the fact that they can help someone else is more than they're doing right now. Right now, they're forever left to stand idly with no death or even end in sight. So maybe being eaten is the better fate, because at least now, after being eaten, these trees will be able to rest. If trees truly are the correct and proper evolutionary path for us humans, the crazy man could, in his own sense of insanity, be right, and Denji is denying their truth by sacrificing them. But again, Denji has all the strength and all of the means to assert his own truth much more than any of these trees do, which is ultimately what matters at the end of the day. And if that makes Denji a devil, then so be it. All that means is Denji's growth, his progress, will continue forward. And when the teenager finally does realize his truth, the missing piece that leads to his evolution, it's not gonna be in the aging world. Because after learning that loss is just a part of life, Denji refuses to remain stagnant like these trees. He chooses to look onward, searching for the next family member, the next love, the next girl, whatever he can do to replace the void that is left empty by the loss of others, the next meal to fulfill his hunger, which has always just been the main lesson of humanity in life. Continue moving forward. If anyone has lost grasp of the truth, it's these prisoners of the aging world. Which only proves that if Pochita was to actually eat the aging devil, it only brings humanity closer to ruin and destruction, rather than being some kind of glorious evolution that public safety is looking for in hopes of combating the incoming apocalypse. And back in the real world, while Pochita does the good fight, the aging devil is using all of his power he has left to try and stay alive. And I honestly, my one question is, I don't know why they couldn't just put my man in a regular chair. Why does he have to sit on top of this old dude? The only guy who was willing to listen to Aging Devil when he told him to stomp on Pochita's heart when it dropped onto the floor was the one he was sitting on. Everyone else is fucked up. You just stole their livers, their eyes. I mean, come on, man. Think about this before you start fighting and wasting your sacrifices. Because they're so slow, Denji's able to rev that engine and recreate Pochita from scratch, tearing the primal fear into 2 pieces, even though Aging Devil does regenerate right after, and claims that Pochita will not be able to kill it with ordinary means. Which Chainsaw Man's big pull is the fact that after eating the devils, they are erased and killed. And since Pochita has to not eat the Aging Devil, we're kind of at an impasse here. No matter how many times Pochita slashes the Aging Devil in 2 or cuts off his head, Aging will just regenerate. But again, we cannot forget, this isn't a 1v1, it's a 2-on-1. And this is exactly what I mean by saying the teamwork behind this duo is pure cinema. Because when one is backed into a corner with no way out, the other steps in to help. 2 characters that complete each other into making one whole. Denji has the bright idea to start barfing up devils again, but to vomit up a devil that will give them the advantage they need to counter the Aging Devil specifically. What could this devil possibly be? Considering Pochita threw up most of the devils he already ate in the recent fight, I have to assume that the devil Pochita is gonna eat is one that he's eaten long before in the past. It may even be a devil that we haven't seen or aren't familiar with, long forgotten to time. Some fans in the community are already speculating that it could be the return of the nuclear war devil, as was foreshadowed early on in part 2 that war was going to make Chainsaw Man vomit up nukes. And while that may be the answer, it would also give Yoru a significant advantage for the future. And while Denji and Asa are on the same side, I'm not sure how Pochita feels about Yoru, the person that he was literally just fighting against before. But knowing Fujimoto, it could be a completely different devil that we may never even be able to expect. I mean, imagine the Denji, Chainsaw, and Nazi devil team up. That's the ultimate trio we've been waiting for. So, as Pochita fights valiantly against the primal fear, the Aging Devil, no matter how many times the Black Chainsaw Man is able to slice through and chop up the devil, Aging just regenerates and comes right back as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, for every death Pochita is dealt, Denji just needs to devour enough tree person in the Aging world to make up for all of the damage. Now, while I am sure that Denji could probably eat tree people for days on end, and Pochita is more than willing to keep getting back up and fighting, upholding its title as the Executioner of Hell, this cycle can only go on for so long. And considering Aging has already resolved at this point to hold Pochita down and force feed himself to the Executioner, we definitely cannot keep this up forever. Of course though, Big Brain Denji has the bright idea to have Pochita hurl up another devil, one that might actually provide them an advantage that can help them change the tides of battle. Unfortunately, Denji ended up barfing up one of the most shifty little weasels that has ever existed in Fujimoto's Chainsaw Man, and that's Yoshida. Which is honestly funny to me, because this is like the 3rd or 4th time Fujimoto has just removed Yoshida from the story off screen. Yoshida just disappeared after cutting off Asa's arm after her apartment, and Denji cooked and ate him up apparently during his feast in the previous couple of chapters too. Now, it was already assumed that Denji had eaten the octopus devil, but it was never known if Yoshida was included with that. Clearly, we underestimated Pochita and his ability to swallow things whole, because you would think with teeth like that are super duper sharp, Yoshida is not coming out in one piece, but bro was unharmed and undigested entirely. One thing I want to point out is there was a major theory in regards to a comment that the crazy tree dude was making, and he's still very much present. He has not left at all, so I don't know if he's still important, if Denji's gonna eat him while he's a human. I don't know. Bro is probably thinking he is on the biggest trip he has ever had. He took the brown acid. And the comment is, there was only one known person in history that was able to escape the aging world. Many people assumed Yoshida was this person due to his uncanny appearance, off-putting personality, and just the genuine fact of his weird youth, combined with the fact that he's also a veteran devil hunter with pretty decent combat experience. I mean, bro was swinging hands with Quan Chi. So a lot of people assumed that Yoshida was the escapee that was mentioned, although Yoshida does mostly keep to himself and probably wouldn't reveal that information even if it was true. But based off of his initial reaction to being in this aging world prison and the tree guy not really mentioning anything like, oh my god, I know this guy, I'm going to assume that Yoshida was not the man that was being talked about. Now, again, Yoshida could be keeping a secret. He's definitely good at that, and we know for sure he is, but I don't think we should write off any other possibilities either. because this coming back to be an important piece of information might be able to help us in a later date or be used against the aging devil for some kind of power. But knowing Fujimoto, it could also just be some random offhanded comment of lore that really has no impact at all. I'll just say this, there are plenty of Part 1 characters from Chainsaw Man that have yet to make an appearance. And to be honest, any one of them would get a standing ovation upon their return. Bring back Kishibe. Asa is not happy that Yoshida was coughed up. And to be fair, Yoshida also seems plenty concerned that Asa has regained the arm that he cut off. Most likely very aware that this just means Asa and Yoru have developed even further than they have in their last encounter. In classic Yoshida fashion, instead of apologizing for cutting off Asa's arm and trying to make up, he just gets right to business and asks what the situation is and how he can help. But I will say, I think Yoshida's nonchalant attitude about finding out that they're inside the aging devil's world and everything that's happened proves even further that he is not the escapee that was being commented on. And to bring attention to the crazy guy, if he's anything to go off of, I think returning to the eternity prison of like no aging, no death, that could drive one so insane they legitimately become a fucking tree. I think if Yoshida really was the man that escaped, he would be traumatized that he was back here. So that also points in the direction of it not being him. Not that Yoshida has ever really been known to show any kind of emotion, but based off of his acknowledgement of Asa's arm, it's clear that he can show at least some kind of concern or worry. And his only comment on the aging devil trapping them is why would such a powerful devil that has all the power to kill them instantly handle them in such an obtuse, weird way? Which, obviously, we already know this, but Denji explains to Yoshida and Asa, because she didn't know, the aging devil is some kind of sick pervert, he says, that wants to watch children die in exchange for its first ever death, which, honestly, based, I can't argue that. But what is interesting is the difference in Asa and Yoshida's reactions. Asa is rightfully disgusted by this, but Yoshida doesn't even bat an eye, instantly just putting two and two together that, hey, if a primal fear is actually spending time and communicating with us, it's clear that there's some kind of contract with public safety, and I'm on their side. Which, even in this outnumbered, inconvenient situation, it just shows Yoshida is always willing to stir the pot. Bro does not mince words. Bro is just a special type of person. And regardless of how many people die or what public safety might be guilty of, Yoshida's a loyal employee through and through. Which, honestly, makes me wonder what the hell it is that this organization brings to the table for some of these devil hunters being willing to risk everything for the cause. The health insurance and benefits must go crazy. Because sure, in the military, in, public servants, stuff like that, in real life, people are willing to sacrifice themselves for what they believe is the greater good, especially when it comes to their homeland in times of war and justice. But in a world where supernatural devils are the enemy and humans are constantly at a disadvantage, perhaps even more so, soldiers are willing to excuse heinous acts when they know there might be no other way to fight back. Because remember, as far as public safety is concerned, this is all for the benefit of humanity and the protection of their species from the supposedly upcoming apocalypse. So, sure, despite Yoshida's morbid jadedness clearly shining through, the fact that this is such a horrible crime and he's not flinching, it's either possible it's because he's very dedicated to do whatever it takes to help humanity and public safety, or Yoshida personally has some kind of ulterior motive within public safety's higher-ups, or some kind of personal mission to follow public safety through to the end. Because for people like Fumiko and Yoshida to excuse so much for what seems to be a board of directors consisting of nothing but old farts and out-of-touch politicians that are really only looking out for themselves, they can say that they're doing this for the public all they want. I don't believe it for a minute. The truth is, real justice would never accept the harm that the aging devil is causing. Personal strife, greed, and a selfishness that's willing to climb over and push down anything that's in your way, those are the type of people that sacrifice children for eternal life. Yoshida isn't stupid though. He knows he's not only trapped in this eternal prison, but he's also outnumbered by his enemies with no devil powers at all. Yoshida, taking that into consideration, opts for a momentary truce, at least until they can escape the aging world. But he does it in such a slimy, weaselly way that neither Denji or Asa really want to accept his partnership, even if it is only temporary. What's even more ridiculous is that Asa tries to punch Yoshida and he just catches her punch and turns it into a handshake, which just annoys me and irks me to no end. Yoshida is the exact kind of character I hate. Gives me the same vibes as Count Saint Germain from Dawn to Dawn. What an herbivore. Anyway, Denji questions Yoshida and why he should team up with people who are willing to slaughter innocent kids, which based. And Yoshida responds with some kind of philosophical tangent about neutrality and how sometimes, regardless of the hostility that exists, enemies should sometimes work together to smooth one another's violent tendencies and minimize destruction. Using an example of a bear that wanders into town or a hiker that wanders into the bear's territory. Despite the two forces being opposed to one another and almost always prone to respond with violence first, it's much more beneficial for the human to just leave the bear's territory and vice versa for the human to lead the bear out of town than it is for the two of them to fight for supremacy. Because at the end of the day, both the bear and human getting to return to their world at the end of the interaction as opposed to killing one another and creating adversity between these two species is always the better outcome. Yoshida admits that sure, he feels sometimes awarding violent instinctual creatures like bears too much grace and trust is a bad thing because obviously animals don't have the same kind of agency that humans do. But Yoshida can't deny that this situation is similar to what his supposed teacher taught him, proving that he was wrong always to doubt the bear, which is a clear reference that despite devils like Denji and Asa being prone to violence, Yoshida currently believes trusting them and leading them back home will allow the three of them to live with the least amount of casualties, opposed to, Yoshida fighting them now and only one of these three surviving, which is a situation where nobody wins because even if someone wins that fight and comes out as the victor, everyone's still trapped in the aging world. No one can really beat that logic. And that's exactly what Yoshida knows as he smirks at Denji after asking the question if they should work together. Because he knows no one has a choice right now, so he might as well play his Weasley little games. They do decide to put aside their differences for the time being, at least until they can escape the hellhole, but all this means is that we've got another threat on top of aging that will immediately reveal itself once we do escape. Because whatever comes after this aging world, I don't know what it is, but I genuinely can't wait to see it, because the way that the Chainsaw Man story has been moving has been absolutely peak. There are just so many different pieces and layers that have been introduced, even alone since Denji and Asa got trapped in the aging world. And with a potential apocalypse coming, all of this stuff, the stakes are only getting higher. I don't really know how Yoshida plans on helping with the escape with no access to his devil powers, but considering he's asking to put his whole arm through Denji's mouth, I'm going to assume that isn't just a random desire and there's probably a plan behind that. We have finally reached the legendary point in the Chainsaw Man story that is known as the reset value of the Fujimoto effect. And if you're not familiar with what that is, let me explain. The Fujimoto effect is the never-ending cycle that plagues the series known as Chainsaw Man. And for the last couple of chapters, for a long time actually, we were in the what is even going on portion of the Fujimoto effect. Then, as we approach Denji and Asa's controversial scene at the sushi shop, we reach the caps lock, okay, what the heck is actually going on here? However, it's those long bursts of confusion that always give way to unyielding peak and flames that come straight from Fujimoto's oven. Because once the Pochita and Yoru fight began, we were in the final part of the cycle, which is known as Fujimoto You Genius. Once we reached the aging world, we kind of reset. Things have kind of slowed down a little bit. We've been getting a little bit of juicy lore here and there, but honestly, right now, we are definitely back to the what is going on in all caps again, because this final segment of the chapter that involves Diarrhea Woman, Fumiko Mifune, since apparently she's no longer a traitor and I have to call her by her actual name now, doing one of the most confusing things that honestly seems to have next to no explanation. But again, what can we expect? Anyway, before I get into that whole confusing mess and explain my whole thoughts on that, let's get into this chapter. And we do see that as long as Denji's stomach is connected to Pochita's mouth in the real world, it's not just that Denji and Pochita can share information and sustenance. It seems like Pochita's mouth literally acts as a portal, so the protagonist can reach through into the outside. Now at first, Yoshida attempts to use the octopus devil to literally rip them out of the aging world by grabbing onto a support beam and pulling, but aging devil clearly wasn't born yesterday, by definition, and he just cuts the tentacle in half immediately. One thing to note is a lot of people were theorizing last chapter that Yoshida and the Octopus Devil were actually one and the same, because when Denji opted to throw up a devil, instead of the Octopus Devil itself coming out, Denji vomited up Yoshida. And we also never saw Denji consume the Octopus Devil, so a lot of people were just putting 2 and 2 together. While that may not be the case, it does seem that these two entities are somehow either merged together, or this contract that they have between the two of them has to be more than just business and conditions, and perhaps might be a little bit more personal. And Yoshida might have a relationship with the Octopus Devil that we haven't really seen other than since Denji and Pochita. Because not only is the Octopus Devil just easily able to emerge from Yoshida's body at his own will and command, it seems that based off of the interaction that Yoshida has with Fumiko later, Yoshida can just say, hey, Octopus Devil, do this, consume, eat. And that's how he devours Fumiko's heart to gain more power and fully transform the devil. So it makes us wonder that why is this devil listening to Yoshida? Or is it really just a simple contract and the Octopus Devil is just very nice, like the Fox Devil? Wonder how the Fox Devil is doing. Haven't seen them in a while. Now, because Pochita has reached just a dead end in this battle with aging, they essentially have no choice but to just start taking Hail Marys and basing their attacks off pure chance. That's why Yoru just starts firing her finger gun blind without even being able to see. At this point, the entire fight just seems pointless. And they aren't alone in thinking that either, because aging also feels the same way. Not that the Primal Fear cares at all, but aging admits that the more Pochita just tries to fight back and resist, the more innocent people are put at stake and the higher the body count raises. And the panel that we get shows Fumiko being very distraught, and again, not that Fumiko is exactly innocent, but again, using all the public safety and also catching a bunch of random people in the crossfire, most likely, not a good scenario. And the issue is, this scenario is going to keep going on because aging is the one with the high ground, and he's refusing to buck. Not only could have aging personally ended this fight a long time ago, just based off of the clear difference in power between Pochita and the Primal Fear, and the fact that when Yoru puts her face through Pochita's mouth to try and see where she's firing, the aging devil is able to fast forward her time so fast that her skin starts to wrinkle and almost melt off of her bone. Thankfully, when she returns to the aging world, all of these effects cease due to, of course, no devil powers working in the location, but it's a scary fact of what aging could do to us if he really wanted to. However, I think this whole no devil powers working in the aging world may work to our benefit, but we'll have to wait and see if Yoshida can commit. Also, quick little funny thing I noticed before moving on is when Yoru returns, the first thing she worries about is if she's lost her youthful beauty. And one, it's funny to me because this ain't even your body, girl, but it's funny that she still cares what she looks like, which, not for nothing, there's all that controversy of how Yoru has been drawn in the couple of chapters in the big fight scene. You know, definitely added a little bit of cake, if you catch my drift. But you know what? Just based off of this interaction, I would argue it seems like Yoru's definitely posing for that camera. She knows you're looking at her. She wants you to. And two, no concern for how Asa would feel or felt about this aging. Yoru is just so selfish and only cares about herself. Again, it's not even her true body. And it's times like this that we really do remember that Yoru is the War Devil, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I think we definitely forget that sometimes, except in stark moments like this, or when she was an asshole to Asa completely and disregards of her emotions a couple of chapters ago. Getting back on track here, with all of public safety behind aging, it basically has a never-ending count of sacrifices to take organs from to keep regenerating and reviving. Now, Denji's team of 3 people, sure, has plenty of tree people, but since no one is winning and no one can land a decisive blow, this perpetual motion machine is ultimately amounting to nothing but wasted time. However, it's perfect circles that go on forever where insanity grows because doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insane. It normally takes an outside factor entirely absent from the original cycle to change the fate of everyone that's involved. And frankly, that's exactly what happens with Fumiko by the end of the chapter, because she ends up being some unique anomaly that will surely lead to a different outcome in this cycle than ever before. Now, going into this, I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what the fuck just happened. Just by a brief look into the community and their reaction, seems like really no one outside of a couple small theories and hearsay, have any idea what Fumiko might be cooking besides Fujimoto. And I just want to go over a couple of the prominent perspectives, one of which being Fumiko has, which is most likely the case, some kind of special contract with a devil that we just are not aware of. She's just been waiting for the right time to use this and spring into action. Now, does this mean that she never was actually a traitor and was always on our side? Doubtful in that case, because she does say that she promised herself she was just going to switch to whatever side she thought was more likely to win. But I think the interesting notation for this sentence is in certain translations, it can be said that instead of making a promise with herself, she quote unquote made a contract with herself. Which is funny to me that everyone was so crazy focused on Yoshida being a human devil, whatever. Fumiko might have been the suspect this entire time. Now again, I want to clarify, we really have no idea what's going to happen in these next 2 chapters or so, but right now, the best theories that I've seen are that Fumiko's contract is with something like the doppelganger devil, as this could be just her clone we are seeing give up their heart. Maybe, if it's a reflection, it could even be the mirror devil, which I think is poetic because it harks back to aging's initial introduction and shows that Mirror has been against aging this entire time, playing its own game. Or it could even just be something as on the nose and obvious as like the betrayal devil or something, because we already know Fumiko loves to play both sides, so she always comes out on top. However, some people are even assuming that aging might just be witnessing Fumiko's soul standing over her body. But just based off of aging's reaction and the clear ability to see Fumiko as well as Yoshida interacting with Fumiko, I think it's doubtful that this is the case, but with Fujimoto, we honestly can never know. Until then, we are left with this normal, classic Fujimoto cliffhanger of Yoshida fully manifesting the octopus devil after it consumes Fumiko's heart. Whether it be actually her or just a clone, it is apparent that the whole octopus devil has escaped. Our team should be able to make it out of the aging world with that connection now. I'm sure that you had a lot of questions after last chapter as to what Fumiko's true intentions were and exactly what kind of devil power that she was using or made some type of contract with in order to clone herself and trick a primal fear of all devils into losing a fight. And I hope that you knew that Fujimoto was never going to give us any of those answers. At least, not anytime soon. Because by the end of this chapter, it's almost as if life goes to quote-unquote back to normal and nothing ever happened at all. And at least if you consider the millions of riders that are just killing all of the chainsaw copycats in the street normal. The loss of the aging devil comes after an extremely long string of chapters that ultimately serve to push Denji into a corner and force him to grow out of this major depression that he was trapped inside of. Now, even after the loss of Nayuta, because who knows if she's going to come back or how her head is going to come into play, right now Denji's a little bit more focused on Cake, and the reason is Denji seems a lot more confident. Not just in himself as a person, but in where he stands in the world and how the people around him view him. In a world where Denji doesn't have Aki or power to rely on, now he's even down Nayuta, Denji needs a somewhat logical head on his shoulders to keep himself out of trouble. At least as logical as Denji is able to be. I mean, sure, right now, he is definitely surrounded by enemies at every turn, right? At the end of the chapter, Yoshida, Fumiko, Yoru, and even Fami are all eating chocolate cake with him by the end of this, but compared to the Denji 10 to 20 chapters ago where these people were literally like ordering him around and telling him where to go, I think he's at least a little bit more prepared to handle whatever these frenemies throw at him. And as for the aging devil, while the ending of this arc does feel a little bit anticlimactic, it's in true Fujimoto fashion, if I had to be honest with you, faced with a primal fear that is almost impossible to defeat, right? I mean, since as early as our encounter with the darkness and falling devils, they made it clear to us that humanity has not invented, nor do they have any kinds of means that will be able to kill a devil of this magnitude. Which means the only way that they'd ever be able to overcome an obstacle like this is by outsmarting it. And getting a little bit lucky too, by the way, because Fumiko having no true loyalty and being willing to play both sides was definitely an anomaly. But where the chapter starts is the aging devil trapped inside of the stomach of the octopus devil, or at least that's what I imagine. It's a completely pitch black abyss, but he is able to stare into and see sucker tentacles and also Pochita into the black pitch black void. And at first, Aging is completely confused. He doesn't know what's going on, whether he was eaten by Chainsaw Man, if this is actual oblivion itself. And I think that's a cute scene because it's interesting to see how a devil would contemplate, is this death, is this the afterlife, especially a primal fear that we know for sure has never actually experienced death before. It makes sense that Aging would be so confused. Also, not for nothing, what's so poetic about the Aging Devil's defeat is the way that the crazy tree people that he trapped in this deathless world are now also participating in Aging's loss. Which again, their only bet here is to beat Aging by smart, by logic, because being stuck inside of the octopus devil, Pochita can't do anything. Anything he does to hurt or kill the aging devil will just regenerate, which means they have to use his own immortality and powers against him. Thankfully, there's a guy who's just insane enough to do anything you ask of him that probably feels some type of way about getting stuck in the mirror world forever without his consent. Marie Guy, which is what I'm just gonna call him now, reveals that after his long stay in the mirror world, instead of hating the aging devil and having some kind of hatred and madness towards him, it's clear that he developed some kind of Stockholm syndrome almost, and it's like he believes he was uniquely chosen to exist in this deathless paradise. Which, I mean, you do you. Contrary to becoming a tree, in my mind it makes sense that the human mind would just come to the conclusion that after hundreds of thousands of years in isolation, instead of blaming yourself for making the dumb mistake of wishing for youth in looking in the mirror, because again, Mrigai did this to himself, it definitely helps the mind and definitely probably makes him feel a little bit better that if he's like, you know what, I'm the chosen one, this was fate, it was all meant to be. I just have to give Mr. Mrigai props because he gets out of the aging world, goes right back to life, goes right back to working, and you know what? I think I would probably need a little bit of a vacation after that, but also just had a 1,000-year vacation. So maybe not. Maybe this guy's been waiting for something to do. That's probably the answer. There are two other names that Mr. Mrigai mentions, and before grabbing hold of Aging Devil, he brings them up. Assumedly, these are fellow Mrigais that have since transformed into trees, and this guy was just the last one to go of his trio, which is really sad if you think about it. And it makes it even worse that it might be one of the people that Denji ate. No wonder why Mr. Mrigai was like, please don't eat these people, they're my friends. However, Mr. Mrigai and the other trees, with their twisted delusions, are actually upset that aging would taint their beautiful, deathless paradise with someone like Denji, the chainsaw devil, who was willing to ruin thousands of years of evolution for their own personal gain. And that's reason enough for them to turn on Aging. And as they pull him into the deathless paradise, unfortunately for that one random dude that was just letting Aging sit on them, not only were they being humiliated in real life, they are now stuck and dragged and trapped into the Aging world. And comedically enough, peak fiction, when they all leave, they don't let him out. He's the only one that gets stuck in the Aging world. And you know what? Serves this guy right. He got what he actually wanted, didn't he? He wanted to live forever, eternal life. Bro, this is what you asked for. Once inside the Aging world, even though it is the devil's own domain, Aging is unable to use his own devil powers like everyone else. Therefore, Aging can't fight back. He can't do anything. He's just as useless as everybody else is. Aging can't even get himself out of his own world without using the power of a contract as sustenance for the power required. This allows our new chainsaw trio to make a deal with the primal fear for everyone to escape. Because realistically, the only other alternative is Yoshida, Asa, and everyone else gets out through Denji's mouth portal, but Aging and Denji are left here forever. Just the thought of being stuck with Denji here alone is more than enough to have the Aging Devil give up every dream he's ever had of being eaten, of dying, of watching a bunch of kids die. It's all worthless in the face of having to be stuck with this fucking idiot for the rest of eternity. And in true Fujimoto fashion, you get the face from the Aging Devil turned right into the regular world, which is just beautiful transition here. Beautiful.
And now that we've solved the problem of the aging devil by also ensuring that he's never going to threaten or harm us again, we're right back to all the main issues of the regular Chainsaw Man story. The Chainsaw Church, the constant chaos going on, the potential emerging of the Death Devil and the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. It's almost as if for everything that happened over the last 20 or so chapters, nothing was really accomplished whatsoever. The only thing that changed was Denji's attitude, which I guess was necessary. Fami, who's still one of the big bads, is back hanging out with us like nothing happened, despite her conveniently and suspiciously being absent during that whole big fight. But maybe now that Denji has a better head on his shoulders and isn't mentally broken, he can start picking up on some of these suspicious actions that the people around him are making. And also, Asa is here eating with everyone, which makes sense to me, but is Yoru putting her battle with Pochita on pause for right now? Has she changed her mind due to her, building attraction towards Denji? What's going on with Fumiko and Yoshida? Are they still public safeties? Where do their intentions lie? Are they traitors now? I knew that we would have big questions at the end of this little aging mini arc, but it's insane to me how, literally we have more than we started with, and the story didn't even, lead into the next arc or transition clearly into the next phase of the story. We're just back to business as usual, and again, we have no idea what to expect going forward from here. I genuinely just don't even know what's coming next. What is next chapter going to have? Where is any of this going? I mean, there's still plenty of things to handle, but I couldn't even begin to tell you what comes next. But you know what? That's Chainsaw Man, baby. Nothing out of the ordinary here. We are right back into the Fujimoto cycle, and we have officially reset. We're back onto what is even going on in lowercase, and we'll just have to wait until we reach uppercase, probably in the next 5 or 10 chapters or so. But until then, just know that I will be here every week discussing Chainsaw Man, every week discussing these chapters. So hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss any future chapter reviews or Chainsaw Man videos. We are going back to break, but I think whatever Fujimoto's taking time to cook, I hope it's as good as the meal he just fed us. But guys, I appreciate you making it all the way into the end. You guys are the best. Check out the main channel if you want some extra content. One day I'll point in the right direction, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, peace, peace.